Persuasion isn't just about getting people to say yes to your ideas. It's about understanding how to communicate with others in a way that resonates, builds trust, and inspires action. Imagine having the ability to influence the decisions of those around you, whether it's in your personal relationships, business, or everyday life. What would that do for your success? What would it feel like to have the confidence to speak, knowing your words have power, your ideas are valued, and your vision can become reality? In this guide, we're going to show you how to master persuasion, how to become the person who can truly get what they want from others, not through manipulation or force, but through understanding, connection, and influence. This isn't about using clever tricks or shortcuts. It's about building genuine relationships and communicating in a way that inspires and moves people to action. You'll learn how to influence with integrity, how to understand others deeply, and how to make your ideas impossible to ignore. If you've ever wished you could persuade others with more confidence, or wondered why some people seem to effortlessly influence those around them, this is for you. Stick with me, and by the end you'll have practical tools and insights to start using persuasion in a way that feels natural, powerful, and authentic. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. The Persuader's Mindset. Every great persuader, negotiator, and leader has one thing in common: an unshakable mindset. They don't just memorize techniques or tactics, they embody persuasion as a way of thinking and living. If you want to master persuasion, you must first master yourself. Persuasion isn't about forcing people to say yes. It's about becoming the kind of person people want to say yes to. It's about developing a mindset that radiates confidence, clarity, and conviction. When you speak, people listen, not because of what you say, but because of the energy behind your words. Think about the most persuasive person you know. Chances are, they don't appear desperate for approval. They don't beg or chase. They don't push too hard or use gimmicks. Instead, they carry themselves with a quiet certainty, a magnetic confidence that makes others want to follow their lead. That's because persuasion starts in the mind long before it plays out in words or actions. It's about how you see yourself and the world around you. The first thing you must do to develop the persuader's mindset is to eliminate any self-doubt that weakens your influence. If you don't believe in yourself, why should anyone else? Confidence isn't something you wait to feel, it's something you train yourself to embody. Persuasive people have an unshakable belief in their ideas, their value, and their ability to create impact. They walk into a room knowing they belong there. They don't seek permission to lead, they assume the role naturally. When you adopt this mindset, people sense it. They can feel when someone carries themselves with certainty, and they respond accordingly. Persuasion is also about emotional control. If you're easily rattled, reactive, or thrown off by rejection, you will struggle to influence others. A true persuader doesn't let emotions dictate their actions. They stay composed, unshaken, and focused on the outcome. When someone challenges them, they don't get defensive. They stay calm, ask questions, and turn the conversation in their favor. This ability to remain poised under pressure makes people respect and trust them. Another key trait of a master persuader is the ability to see things from multiple perspectives. People don't care about what you want. They care about what they want. If you can step into their world, understand their desires, fears, and motivations, you can tailor your message in a way that truly resonates. The best persuaders don't try to force their opinions onto others. They align their message with what already matters to the person they're speaking to. They listen more than they talk. They don't just hear words, they pick up on emotions, subtle cues, and hidden objections before they even surface. This awareness gives them an incredible advantage. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to persuade is seeking validation instead of respect. If your goal is to be liked, you'll compromise too much, hesitate too often, and weaken your influence. But when you shift your mindset toward earning respect, everything changes. You stop chasing approval and start leading with certainty. You no longer beg for attention, you command it. Respect is far more powerful than likability. People may not always agree with you, but if they respect you, they'll listen. There's also an element of resilience that separates master persuaders from everyone else. Not everyone will agree with you. Not everyone will see your vision immediately. You will face objections, skepticism, and sometimes outright rejection. But rejection doesn't faze a true persuader, because they know it's just part of the process. Instead of fearing no, they embrace it as an opportunity to refine their approach. They see objections as signals that guide them toward a better strategy. They don't take things personally. They see persuasion as a game of strategy, patience, and adaptability. To master persuasion, you must also embrace the power of silence. Most people fear silence and try to fill it with unnecessary words. But great persuaders understand that silence is a tool. When you pause, it creates tension, it makes people lean in, it gives your words weight. The next time you're in a conversation, resist the urge to immediately fill the gaps. Instead, hold the silence. Let the other person process. Give them space to feel the impact of what you've just said. You'll be amazed at how much more powerful your presence becomes. Persuasion is not about tricks or manipulation. It's about authenticity and alignment. The most influential people don't pretend to be someone they're not. They don't rely on rehearsed lines or fake enthusiasm. They are deeply connected to their message, and that connection makes them compelling. When you genuinely believe in what you're saying, it comes through in your tone, your body language, and your energy. People can feel authenticity. They may not always remember your exact words, but they will remember how you made them feel. Your mindset is the foundation of all persuasion. It determines how you show up, how you communicate, and how people respond to you. If you see yourself as weak, uncertain, or unworthy, others will too. But if you carry yourself with confidence, emotional control, and a deep understanding of human nature, you will naturally draw people in. You won't have to force influence. It will happen effortlessly. The moment you shift your mindset, everything changes. You'll notice people start listening to you differently. Conversations will flow more smoothly. Resistance will weaken. Opportunities will open up. But it all starts with the way you see yourself. Stop seeking approval. Stop waiting for permission. Own your presence. Speak with conviction. Control your emotions. Listen deeply. And above all, believe in your ability to influence the world around you. Chapter 2. The Psychology of Influence. To understand the true power of persuasion, we first need to dive into the psychology of influence. Every day, we make countless decisions, some big, some small, but the way we make these decisions is often influenced by factors that we don't even realize. By understanding these psychological triggers, you can become much more effective in persuading others, because you'll know what motivates them and how to speak to those motivations in a way that resonates. At the heart of persuasion is the understanding that people are not purely rational. While we like to think we make logical, well-thought-out decisions, the reality is far different. Human beings are deeply emotional creatures, and emotions drive a large part of our decision-making process. When you're trying to persuade someone, whether it's a friend, a colleague, or a potential client, tapping into these emotions is often the key to influencing their decisions. Take a moment to think about your own decisions. Why do you choose the brands you do? Why do you support certain causes or trust specific individuals? It's rarely just about the facts or figures. It's often about how those things make you feel. Maybe a brand makes you feel a sense of trust, or a cause makes you feel like you're part of something greater. When you understand this dynamic in others, you can communicate with them in a way that triggers these emotional responses, leading them to be more open to your ideas. Another crucial aspect of the psychology of persuasion is understanding how people make judgments. The human brain is wired to take shortcuts when processing information. These shortcuts are called heuristics, and they help us make quick decisions without needing to analyze every detail. While these shortcuts can be useful in everyday life, they also make us susceptible to influence. For example, people tend to assume that if something is popular, it must be good. This is why social proof is such a powerful tool in persuasion. When you can show that others trust or endorse a product, idea, or decision, it can have a significant impact on someone else's willingness to trust it too. But it's not just about appealing to emotions or relying on heuristics. People are also driven by a deep need for consistency. Once we make a decision or take a stance on something, we tend to stick to it, even if new information arises. This is known as the principle of consistency. When you can get someone to commit to a small action, even if it's just agreeing with you on a small point, they are far more likely to continue agreeing with you and make larger commitments later. It's a subtle but powerful way to build momentum and move someone closer to the decision you want them to make. The principle of reciprocity also plays a huge role in persuasion. When someone does something for us, we feel an obligation to return the favor. This can be something as simple as a compliment or a small gesture. The more you can give to others, whether it's time, value, or attention, the more likely they are to feel compelled to reciprocate. This is why so many successful businesses and marketers offer free trials, samples, or valuable content. They understand that giving first creates a sense of indebtedness that encourages others to engage with them more deeply. Understanding the psychology of influence also means recognizing that people are deeply social. We are constantly looking for approval and validation from those around us. This is why we are so influenced by social groups, peers, and experts. If someone in a position of authority or someone we admire endorses an idea or behavior, we are far more likely to accept it. This is the principle of authority. When you speak with confidence and expertise, people are more likely to listen and follow your lead. It's also important to note that we are all deeply influenced by the fear of loss, more so than the potential for gain. This is known as loss aversion, and it's a key psychological factor in decision-making. People are far more motivated to avoid losing something than they are to gain something of equal value. When you frame your persuasive message in terms of what someone stands to lose by not taking action, it can be far more effective than focusing solely on what they might gain. What's fascinating about all of this is that these principles are not just about getting others to say yes to your ideas, they are about understanding what makes people tick on a deep level. When you approach persuasion from a place of empathy, truly trying to understand what others need, fear, and desire, you can tailor your communication in a way that feels natural, genuine, and compelling. Instead of using persuasion to manipulate or pressure others, you can use it to guide them toward decisions that are in their best interest. As you learn more about the psychology of influence, it's important to start practicing these principles in your daily life. Begin by paying closer attention to the people around you. How do they make decisions? What triggers their responses? What makes them act? The more you observe, the more you'll understand the subtle cues that drive behavior. With practice, you'll be able to navigate conversations with greater ease, recognizing the psychological triggers at play and using them to guide the conversation in a way that feels authentic and aligned with the other person's needs. Persuasion isn't about using psychological tricks to get what you want. It's about understanding the deeper mechanisms that drive human behavior and learning how to communicate with others in a way that resonates with them on an emotional level. When you do this, you create an environment where people feel heard, understood, and motivated to take action, not because you've tricked them, but because you've tapped into something they already value or desire. The more you dive into these psychological principles, the more effective you'll become at persuasion. You'll learn how to approach every conversation with a greater sense of awareness and intent, understanding how to tailor your message to resonate with the person in front of you. It's a powerful skill that can help you build stronger relationships, influence important decisions, and move closer to the life you want to create. By mastering the psychology of influence, you don't just learn how to persuade others, you learn how to connect with them on a deeper level, and that's where true influence begins. Chapter 3. The Power of First Impressions. When you meet someone for the first time, you have mere seconds to make an impression. The way you present yourself, the way you speak, and even how you carry yourself can all play a crucial role in whether that person perceives you as trustworthy, likable, and credible. This initial encounter can set the tone for the entire relationship, and it's often difficult to overcome a poor first impression once it's made. That's why understanding the power of first impressions and how to make them count is essential for mastering persuasion. We've all heard the saying, "You never get a second chance to make a first impression," but it's more than just a catchy phrase. It's rooted in psychological truth. Studies show that the human brain forms judgments about others within milliseconds of meeting them. These judgments are often based on non-verbal cues, like your facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice. So even before you speak, people are already making assumptions about who you are and what you're about. Think about it for a moment. Have you ever met someone and immediately felt like you either liked or disliked them, even though you hadn't exchanged many words? That's your brain picking up on subtle signals, whether it's a confident posture, a warm smile, or maybe the way they make you feel comfortable. Or perhaps it's the opposite. Someone might have seemed standoffish, unapproachable, or even untrustworthy based on how they carried themselves. Now consider how this applies to persuasion. Whether you're trying to sell an idea, negotiate a deal, or simply build a relationship, the first impression you make is incredibly important. If someone perceives you as competent, trustworthy, and likable from the outset, they are much more likely to be receptive to your message. If they sense something is off or feel uncomfortable with you, they may dismiss your ideas before you even get the chance to explain them. One of the most powerful aspects of making a good first impression is the idea of warmth and competence. According to research, people generally make judgments about others based on two key factors: how warm and approachable someone is, and how competent they appear. If you're seen as warm and likable, but not competent, people may like you but won't trust your ability to get things done. On the other hand, if you're competent but lack warmth, you might come off as cold, arrogant, or unapproachable. The ideal balance is warmth and competence. When you can combine these two traits, you immediately become more persuasive. This is why it's important to be mindful of how you come across in those first moments. A friendly demeanor, a genuine smile, and an open posture go a long way in showing warmth. At the same time, speaking clearly, confidently, and demonstrating your expertise will communicate competence. So how do you ensure that your first impression hits the mark? Start by paying attention to your body language. Studies show that up to 93% of communication is non-verbal. That means the way you carry yourself, your facial expressions, and your gestures matter more than what you actually say. When you walk into a room, make sure to stand tall with your shoulders back. Avoid crossing your arms, as this can make you appear closed off or defensive. A firm handshake can also help establish a sense of confidence and trustworthiness. When you smile genuinely, it signals to others that you're approachable and friendly. This simple act can help create an immediate connection. Next, think about the tone and pace of your voice. Speaking with a calm, steady tone conveys confidence, while speaking too quickly or too quietly can make you seem nervous or unsure. If you want to come across as persuasive, it's important to sound like you know what you're talking about and that you're comfortable with yourself. People are naturally drawn to those who speak with clarity and certainty. Another key element of making a great first impression is eye contact. It's one of the most powerful tools in building rapport. Maintaining appropriate eye contact shows that you're engaged and interested in the person you're speaking to. However, be careful not to overdo it, as staring can make someone feel uncomfortable. A balance is necessary, long enough to establish trust, but not so long that it becomes intimidating. In addition to nonverbal communication, your ability to show empathy plays a huge role in creating a strong first impression. People are more likely to be persuaded by someone who makes them feel understood. This means being genuinely interested in what the other person has to say, asking questions, and listening carefully. When people feel heard and valued, they are much more likely to trust you and be open to your ideas. Empathy also means being mindful of the other person's emotions. If you can recognize when someone is feeling uncomfortable, frustrated, or uncertain, you can adjust your approach to make them feel more at ease. This doesn't mean being overly soft or abandoning your message. Rather, it means being aware of their emotional state and adjusting accordingly. As much as we like to think of ourselves as independent decision makers, the truth is that we are influenced by those around us. This is why first impressions matter so much in persuasion. When we meet someone new, our brain is constantly scanning for signs of trustworthiness and competence. If we perceive the person as warm and capable, we are more likely to be open to their influence. If we feel a disconnect or discomfort, we are more likely to shut down and resist what they're saying. One mistake many people make when trying to persuade others is diving into their message too quickly. They might rush through their pitch, eager to get their ideas across, but by doing so, they miss an essential opportunity to build rapport and trust. Before you try to persuade someone, take the time to build that initial connection. Make the effort to engage with them on a human level first. This doesn't mean you have to become best friends, but showing that you care about them as individuals and building a genuine rapport will make them far more receptive to your message. Another thing to remember is that first impressions are not just about how others perceive you, they're also about how you perceive yourself. If you walk into a room unsure of yourself or worried about what others think, that insecurity will likely be felt by those around you. Confidence is key, but it's not about being perfect. It's about being comfortable with who you are and embracing the situation with a positive attitude. When you show up confidently, others are more likely to be drawn to you. The good news is that making a positive first impression isn't something you're born with. It's a skill that can be developed. By practicing your body language, refining your communication style, and focusing on building genuine connections, you can master the art of creating a powerful first impression. And once you've done that, you'll find that persuading others becomes much easier. When people like, trust, and respect you from the start, they're much more likely to be open to what you have to say and willing to follow your lead. In the world of persuasion, first impressions are everything. They set the tone for everything that follows. If you can nail that initial encounter, you're already ahead of the game. So next time you find yourself meeting someone new, remember that you have the power to shape the way they perceive you. With the right body language, tone, and empathy, you can make a lasting impact and lay the foundation for successful persuasive communication. Chapter 4: The Art of Active Listening. It's a skill that goes beyond just hearing what someone says. It's about truly understanding their words, emotions, and intentions. When you listen actively, you're not just passively waiting for your turn to speak. Instead, you're fully engaged in the conversation, tuned into the other person's needs, desires, and underlying feelings. This kind of listening not only helps you connect with others on a deeper level, but also makes you far more persuasive. You might be wondering why listening is so important in the art of persuasion. After all, shouldn't you be the one doing most of the talking if you want to convince someone? The answer is yes and no. While it's true that speaking clearly and articulating your ideas is important, the ability to listen well can often be even more influential. When people feel heard, they feel valued, and when people feel valued, they are far more likely to listen to what you have to say in return. Think about the times you've been in a conversation where the other person wasn't truly listening. Maybe they seemed distracted, checked their phone every few minutes, or didn't seem to care about your point of view. How did that make you feel? Chances are you didn't feel very respected, and you probably didn't want to continue the conversation. In contrast, think about the times when someone has really listened to you, when they made eye contact, nodded in understanding, and responded thoughtfully to what you said. You probably felt heard and appreciated. This is the kind of dynamic that builds trust and opens the door for persuasion. Active listening is the key to creating that dynamic. When you listen actively, you show the other person that you care about what they're saying. You acknowledge their emotions and make them feel understood. And when people feel understood, they are much more likely to be open to your influence. But what does active listening actually look like in practice? It starts with being present. Too often, we listen with the intention of preparing our own response, rather than truly engaging with the other person's words. Instead of focusing on what we're going to say next, we need to focus on what the other person is actually saying. This means putting aside distractions, like your phone or other thoughts, and giving the person your full attention. It's about being mentally and emotionally present in the conversation. One of the simplest ways to show that you're fully engaged is through body language. Things like maintaining eye contact, nodding in agreement, and facing the person directly all signal that you're paying attention. These non-verbal cues reinforce the message that you value what the other person is saying. Another key aspect of active listening is asking open-ended questions. These questions invite the other person to share more about their thoughts and feelings, and they also demonstrate your genuine interest in their perspective. Instead of asking questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no, ask questions that encourage elaboration. For example, instead of saying, "Did you like the proposal?" try asking, "What did you think about the proposal?" This type of question invites the person to share their deeper thoughts and feelings, which helps you better understand their point of view. As you listen, it's important to reflect back what you're hearing. This doesn't mean parroting their words, but rather restating what they've said in your own words to show that you're truly understanding them. This technique, known as mirroring, helps clarify any potential misunderstandings and reassures the speaker that you're paying close attention. For instance, if someone says, "I've been feeling overwhelmed with all the work lately," you could respond with, "It sounds like you've got a lot on your plate right now. That must be really stressful." This shows empathy and signals that you're in tune with their emotions. Listening actively also involves acknowledging the emotional undertone behind what someone is saying. People often communicate more through their emotions than through the actual words they use. By picking up on these emotional cues, you can better understand the person's true feelings and respond in a way that resonates with them. For example, if someone says, "I'm really frustrated with how things are going," it's not just about the frustration itself, but also about the underlying emotion of disappointment or helplessness. Responding with empathy and understanding can help ease their emotional state and create a connection that facilitates persuasion. It's also important to practice patience when listening. Sometimes, people need a moment to gather their thoughts or fully express what they're feeling. Rather than rushing in with your own response, allow the other person the space they need to finish speaking. Silence can be a powerful tool in a conversation, as it gives the speaker the freedom to expand on their thoughts and ensures that you don't interrupt or cut them off prematurely. Active listening isn't just about understanding what someone is saying, it's also about showing respect for their perspective. Even if you don't agree with everything they're saying, you can still acknowledge their viewpoint and show that you respect their right to have their own thoughts and feelings. This doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but it does mean you should listen with an open mind and a non-judgmental attitude. People are more likely to be persuaded when they feel like they're being treated with respect and consideration. When you listen actively, you also gain a wealth of valuable information that can help you tailor your approach and make your message more compelling. By understanding the other person's needs, desires, and concerns, you can craft your arguments in a way that addresses those issues directly. This personalized approach makes your persuasion efforts more effective because you're speaking to the other person's unique situation. Listening isn't a passive activity, it's an active choice that you make to engage fully with the other person. By becoming a better listener, you're not only improving your ability to persuade, but also deepening your relationships and fostering a sense of mutual respect. Whether you're in a professional setting or a personal one, the ability to listen actively can make all the difference in how well you connect with others and how effectively you influence them. In fact, active listening is one of the easiest yet most powerful ways to improve your persuasive abilities. When people feel heard and understood, they are far more likely to be receptive to your ideas. They're more likely to trust you, to feel comfortable with you, and to be open to the influence you want to exert. And when you can combine active listening with your ability to articulate your own ideas, you'll find that persuasion becomes not just an art but a natural, effortless process. So, the next time you're in a conversation, remember that your ability to listen actively can be just as powerful as your ability to speak persuasively. By focusing on the other person, showing empathy, and reflecting back what you hear, you can create an environment where mutual understanding flourishes and your influence grows. Active listening isn't just a skill, it's a mindset that can transform your relationships and make you a more effective persuader. Chapter 5. The Science of Charisma. When it comes to persuasion, one of the most captivating and influential qualities you can possess is charisma. It's that magnetic quality that draws people in, makes them want to listen to you, and leaves a lasting impression. While charisma may seem like something you either have or you don't, the truth is, it's a skill that can be developed with practice. Charisma is not just about being charming or outgoing. It's about creating a genuine connection with others and making them feel seen, heard, and valued. When you master charisma, persuasion becomes effortless. People are more likely to trust you, follow your lead, and be influenced by your ideas. At its core, charisma is about presence. It's about being fully engaged in the moment and making the other person feel like they are the most important person in the room. It's the way you hold yourself, the way you speak, and the way you make others feel when you're around. But it's not just about how you present yourself, it's also about how you make others feel. People are drawn to those who make them feel good about themselves, who inspire confidence, and who exude a sense of warmth and authenticity. One of the first things that can help you cultivate charisma is learning to be present in every interaction. It's easy to get caught up in your own thoughts, concerns, or distractions, but when you're distracted, you miss the opportunity to truly connect with the person in front of you. Being present means putting aside whatever else is on your mind and focusing completely on the other person. This is more than just listening. It's about giving them your undivided attention, both mentally and emotionally. When you do this, the other person feels valued and important, and that's when your charisma starts to shine. Another key aspect of charisma is body language. It's said that the majority of communication is non-verbal, and that's especially true when it comes to charisma. The way you stand, the way you make eye contact, and the way you use your hands to express yourself can have a huge impact on how you're perceived. Charismatic people tend to have open, relaxed body language. They don't cross their arms or look around the room while others are talking. Instead, they lean in slightly, maintain eye contact, and use gestures that reinforce what they're saying. This openness signals that you're approachable, confident, and genuinely interested in the conversation. When you project this kind of positive energy, people are more likely to be drawn to you and your ideas. But charisma isn't just about being engaging and open in your body language. It's also about the way you speak. How you say something can be just as important as what you say. Charismatic speakers are often those who speak with passion, conviction, and clarity. They don't rush through their words or mumble. Every word is deliberate and measured. They also use pauses effectively, allowing their message to sink in and giving others the space to reflect on what's being said. This creates an atmosphere of anticipation where people are hanging on your every word, eager to hear more. A key component of speaking with charisma is using your voice to its fullest potential. Charismatic speakers are skilled at modulating their tone, varying their pitch, and adjusting their pace. They know when to speak softly for emphasis and when to raise their voice for impact. This dynamic use of voice keeps the listener engaged and makes your message more compelling. It also conveys emotion and enthusiasm, which helps to create a stronger connection with your audience. Another critical element of charisma is your ability to make others feel good about themselves. People are naturally drawn to those who make them feel valued and appreciated. If you can show genuine interest in others, ask thoughtful questions, and express sincere admiration for their strengths, you'll quickly find that your charisma will grow. Charismatic people often have a knack for making others feel like they're the most important person in the room. They do this by showing a deep interest in what others have to say, actively listening, and providing positive reinforcement. Charisma also thrives on authenticity. People can spot inauthenticity from a mile away, and when you try to be something you're not, you lose that magnetic quality that draws others in. The most charismatic individuals are those who are comfortable in their own skin, who embrace their strengths and flaws, and who remain true to their values. When you're authentic, People sense that you're genuine, and that builds trust. Trust is one of the most important elements in persuasion, and without it, any attempt to influence someone will fall flat. One of the best ways to develop charisma is to practice empathy. Empathy is the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, to understand their feelings, and to respond with care and compassion. When you can empathize with others, you create an emotional bond that makes them feel understood. This emotional connection is the foundation of charisma. People are drawn to those who can make them feel heard and validated. When you respond with empathy, you build rapport, which in turn makes it easier to persuade them. It's also important to embrace vulnerability as a key part of your charisma. Vulnerability doesn't mean exposing all your weaknesses or oversharing your personal life. It means being willing to be open, real, and human. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you show others that you're not trying to put on a facade, and that makes you more approachable. It's easy to build a connection with someone who is authentic and willing to show their true self. Charisma is often associated with confidence, and for good reason. Confident people are magnetic because they exude a sense of self-assurance that others find appealing. Confidence doesn't mean arrogance, it means being comfortable in your own skin and trusting in your abilities. When you carry yourself with confidence, others will take notice, and you'll naturally become more persuasive. Confidence is contagious. When people see that you believe in yourself, they're more likely to believe in you too. But confidence alone isn't enough to make you charismatic. True charisma comes from combining confidence with humility. Charismatic individuals are confident in their abilities, but they are also humble enough to acknowledge the strengths and contributions of others. They don't seek the spotlight for themselves, they share it with others, making them feel valued in the process. This humility helps to balance out the confidence and prevents it from tipping into arrogance. Finally, one of the most important aspects of charisma is having a sense of purpose and passion. Charismatic individuals are often driven by a clear sense of mission. They have a vision that inspires them, and they communicate that vision with enthusiasm. When you speak with passion and conviction, others will be inspired by your energy and motivation. People are naturally drawn to those who are passionate about something because it shows that they believe in what they're saying. Passion is contagious, and when you infuse your interactions with it, you'll find that people are more likely to be persuaded by your ideas. Charisma is a skill that can be developed by anyone. It's about being present, engaging with others, and creating connections that make people feel valued and understood. It's about speaking with passion and confidence while remaining authentic and humble. When you master charisma, you become a magnetic force. People are drawn to you, and your ability to persuade becomes stronger. With practice and self-awareness, you can harness the power of charisma and use it to influence, inspire, and achieve your goals. Chapter 6: The Persuasive Power of Storytelling. When it comes to persuasion, one of the most essential skills you can develop is the ability to listen actively. It might sound simple, but it's one of the most overlooked components of effective communication and persuasion. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to assume that we must always be the ones doing the talking, but real influence begins when we learn to listen carefully to others. Listening isn't just about hearing the words someone says. It's about fully understanding their message, their needs, and their emotions behind those words. When you listen actively, you build trust and rapport, two of the most powerful tools for persuading others. One of the first things you'll notice about active listening is how it shifts the focus from you to the person you're speaking with. This change of focus is incredibly powerful. People want to feel heard and understood, and when you give them that experience, they're much more likely to listen to what you have to say in return. Active listening involves not only hearing the words being spoken, but also paying close attention to the tone of voice, body language, and non-verbal cues. These often tell you much more about a person's feelings and intentions than their words alone. By focusing on both what they say and how they say it, you gain a deeper understanding of their true thoughts and emotions, which can significantly increase your ability to persuade. A critical part of listening actively is giving the other person your full attention. We've all experienced those moments where we're in a conversation, but our mind is elsewhere, distracted by something else, or even planning what we're going to say next. This kind of half-listening doesn't build rapport or foster connection. To truly be persuasive, you must be fully present in the moment. This means putting aside your distractions, making eye contact, and showing that you value the other person's thoughts and feelings. When you do this, you're not only gathering valuable information, but you're also signaling to the other person that you care about them and their perspective. That alone is a powerful step toward influencing their decisions. As you practice active listening, one of the most effective tools you can use is asking thoughtful, open-ended questions. These types of questions invite the other person to share more about their thoughts and feelings, and they show that you're genuinely interested in understanding their point of view. Open-ended questions encourage a deeper conversation and make the person feel comfortable enough to express themselves fully. This is where the art of persuasion really begins, by creating a safe space where the other person feels free to share what's on their mind. You can better understand their motivations, desires, and potential objections. Along with asking the right questions, it's also important to avoid interrupting. When we interrupt someone while they're speaking, we're sending a message that we don't value what they have to say. It's a subtle yet powerful signal that can damage rapport and trust. Even if you're eager to offer your perspective or solution, hold back for a moment and let the other person finish speaking. In doing so, you allow them to feel truly heard, and that makes them more receptive to hearing you out in return. This back and forth of active listening and careful responses builds a foundation of mutual respect, which is essential for any persuasive conversation. Another key component of active listening is reflecting back what the other person has said. This doesn't mean parroting their words, but rather summarizing or rephrasing their message to show that you understand it. For example, if someone tells you that they're worried about a decision they need to make, you might respond with, "It sounds like you're feeling uncertain about the next steps and want to make sure you choose the right option." This technique not only demonstrates that you've been listening, but also gives the other person a chance to clarify or expand on their thoughts. It creates a sense of shared understanding and further deepens the connection between you. As you become more skilled at active listening, you'll also develop an increased sensitivity to the underlying emotions in a conversation. Often, what people say isn't the whole story. There's usually an emotional component beneath their words that can be just as important to understand. Maybe someone is expressing frustration, but beneath that frustration, there's fear or insecurity. By tuning in to the emotional undercurrent of the conversation, you can address the person's deeper concerns, which can help you connect with them on a more meaningful level. This emotional awareness is a crucial element in persuasion because it allows you to speak to someone's core motivations rather than just their surface-level objections or desires. Listening also helps you identify opportunities for compromise. The more you understand the other person's perspective, the better you can find common ground. Persuasion is not always about winning someone over to your exact way of thinking. Often it's about finding a solution that works for both parties. Through active listening, you can uncover areas of agreement, which allows you to frame your proposal in a way that resonates with the other person's needs. By showing that you're willing to collaborate and meet them halfway, you demonstrate that your goal is not to manipulate or dominate, but to work together toward a mutually beneficial outcome. There's also a subtle but important aspect of persuasion that comes from simply being patient. When you're fully engaged in the conversation, without rushing to offer solutions or interjecting your opinion, you create an atmosphere of openness. People appreciate the space to think through their thoughts and feel like their voice matters. This patience builds trust, and when someone trusts you, they are far more likely to be persuaded by your ideas. In a fast-paced world where many people are quick to jump in with answers, taking the time to listen can set you apart as a thoughtful, trustworthy individual. One powerful way to practice active listening is through mirroring. Mirroring involves subtly mimicking the other person's body language, tone, or speech patterns. This technique creates a feeling of familiarity and rapport, which can enhance the sense of connection between you. People naturally gravitate toward those who seem similar to them, and by mirroring their behaviors, you make them feel more comfortable and at ease. This doesn't mean you should mimic every move or exaggerate the behavior, but when done naturally, it can have a profound impact on the flow of conversation and your ability to persuade. Ultimately, active listening is a skill that improves with time and practice. The more you incorporate these techniques into your daily interactions, the more naturally they will come to you. Listening may seem simple, but when you do it with intention and skill, it becomes one of the most effective tools you have for persuasion. It helps you understand the other person's perspective, build trust, and create an environment where both parties can work together to find solutions. So the next time you're in a conversation, remember that your ability to listen is not just about hearing words, it's about hearing the person behind those words. And when you do that, you'll be amazed at the doors it opens for persuasion and connection. Chapter 7. The Language of Influence. The way you speak determines how people perceive you, how they respond to you, and whether or not they are persuaded by what you say. Every conversation is an opportunity to influence, and those who understand the language of influence can guide decisions, shift perspectives, and inspire action without force or manipulation. The right words, spoken in the right way, at the right time, can change everything. Language is more than just communication. It's a tool for shaping emotions and beliefs. People don't just hear words, they feel them. A simple shift in phrasing can mean the difference between resistance and agreement. Instead of saying, "You have to do this," say, "What if we tried it this way?" Instead of saying, "This won't work," say, "Let's find a better approach." Words create mental images, and the images we create determine how people react. If you want someone to see possibility, you have to use language that opens doors, not closes them. The tone you use carries as much weight as the words themselves. Confidence, warmth, and certainty are contagious. If you sound unsure, hesitant, or apologetic, people will doubt what you're saying, even if your words are correct. But when you speak with certainty, people naturally trust you. A strong voice, steady pacing, and clear articulation send a subconscious message. I know what I'm talking about, and you should listen. People are far more likely to agree with you when they feel understood. That's why the best persuaders don't just talk, they listen. When you mirror someone's language, when you reflect their emotions back to them, they feel an unspoken connection. If someone says, "I just don't think this will work," and you respond with, "It sounds like you're concerned about the risks," You validate their feelings without arguing. This opens the door for persuasion because people lower their defenses when they feel heard. One of the most powerful tools of influence is the use of embedded suggestions. Instead of giving direct commands, you plant ideas in a way that makes people feel like they arrived at the conclusion on their own. Instead of saying, "You should trust me," say. Many people find that once they understand this approach, they feel a strong sense of confidence in it. The key is subtlety. People resist being told what to do, but they embrace ideas that feel like their own. Questions are another secret weapon. Instead of telling people what to think, ask questions that guide them toward realization. What would happen if you tried this? How would things change if you made this decision? What's the biggest challenge stopping you right now? A well-placed question shifts the focus from argument to exploration. Instead of pushing your idea onto someone, you invite them to discover it for themselves. And when people feel like they've reached a conclusion independently, they're far more committed to it. Metaphors and analogies make your message stick. The human brain thinks in pictures, not in abstract ideas. If you compare a concept to something familiar, it becomes easier to grasp. Instead of explaining a complex strategy in technical terms, compare it to a well-known process. Think of this like planting a seed. You won't see results overnight, but if you nurture it consistently, it will grow. A simple analogy can take a vague idea and turn it into something people feel. Pacing matters just as much as words. If you rush, people struggle to process what you're saying. If you speak too slowly, they lose interest. The most persuasive communicators understand rhythm. They know when to pause for effect, when to speed up to create urgency, and when to slow down to let something sink in. A single pause before delivering an important point can make the difference between forgettable and unforgettable. The way you frame information determines how people respond to it. If you present something as a problem, people will resist. But if you frame it as an opportunity, they become curious. Instead of saying, "This is going to be difficult," say, "This is going to challenge you in ways that lead to massive growth." Instead of saying, "We need to fix this issue," say, "We have a chance to make this even better." The message is the same, but the emotional impact is completely different. Every conversation is a negotiation of beliefs, emotions, and perspectives. The most persuasive people don't force. They guide. They don't argue. They inspire. They use words with precision. They listen deeply. And they understand that influence isn't about control, it's about connection. The way you speak can open doors, transform relationships, and shape the world around you. Choose your words wisely, because language isn't just communication, it's the key to influence. Chapter 8. The Subtle Art of Framing. Imagine this. You're sitting at a table, about to make a decision that could shape the direction of your life. You're faced with two options. One looks risky, but it promises great rewards. The other is safe, predictable, but comes with its own set of challenges. Both choices are equally viable, yet the way they are presented to you might just sway your decision. That's the power of framing. Framing is the art of shaping the way information is presented to influence the way it's perceived. In a world where people are bombarded with choices, opinions, and endless streams of information, how something is framed can mean the difference between a yes and a no. Whether you're convincing someone to invest in a project, sell an idea, or even just persuade a friend to join you for a workout, framing is a subtle yet powerful tool in the persuader's arsenal. Now let's dig into what framing really is and how it works. Framing is not about manipulating or lying. It's about emphasizing certain aspects of a situation or option to guide the way people see it. It's about context. Think of it like setting the stage for a play. The actors and the plot may be the same, but the way the stage is set, the lighting, and the way the scene is presented can completely alter the mood and the audience's perception. Consider this example. Let's say you're trying to persuade someone to purchase a product. You could tell them that the product costs $100, and that's it. But you could also frame it differently by saying, for just $2.75 a day, you could own this product, which will save you time and money in the long run. Same product, same price, but the way it's framed makes it seem more appealing and reasonable. The perspective has shifted, and the perceived value of the product has changed. One of the most common ways framing works is through positive and negative framing. This is exactly what it sounds like, presenting something in a positive light or a negative one. Here's a simple example. Imagine you're selling a used car. You could say, this car is 10 years old, but it still runs perfectly, and immediately the focus is on the age of the car. Or you could say, this car has been well maintained and still runs like new, and suddenly the age doesn't seem as important as the condition. Same car, different framing. The way you frame a message can shift a person's perspective from focusing on the negatives to focusing on the positives. Another powerful framing technique involves loss aversion. Psychologists have found that people fear loss more than they value gain. We're wired to avoid losing something rather than gaining something. So when framing an offer, you might say, if you don't act now, you could miss out on this exclusive deal. That triggers the fear of missing out, making the potential loss feel more significant than the potential gain. On the flip side, you could frame the same offer in a positive light by saying, this deal will save you money, but only if you act today. The emphasis is shifted to the opportunity to gain, not to what might be lost. Framing also plays a critical role when it comes to group dynamics and social influence. People tend to conform to social norms and group behaviors. If you want to persuade a group, you can use framing to highlight social proof, showing that others have already made the choice or taken the action you're encouraging. For example, if you're trying to convince a group to join a cause, you might frame it like this: join the thousands of people already supporting this movement. We're all in this together. This shifts the focus from what an individual gains to what the group is doing, tapping into the power of social conformity. But the power of framing isn't just for selling products or convincing others in business. It applies to every aspect of life, especially when it comes to our personal mindset. The way you frame your own experiences has the power to influence your emotions and actions. For instance, if you face a challenging situation, you can frame it as a setback, a failure, or a lesson to be learned. The way you view the challenge directly influences how you approach it. Instead of seeing failure as something that defines you, you can choose to see it as an opportunity to grow and improve. That's a mental shift, a shift in how you frame your own narrative. Consider the story of Thomas Edison, who, after failing countless times to invent the light bulb, was famously quoted saying, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Edison reframed failure as a necessary part of the process. Every time he didn't succeed, he was one step closer to finding what would work. That is the power of framing in its purest form, turning obstacles into stepping stones towards success. As you begin to master the art of framing, remember that your ability to reframe situations is tied to your mindset. A person with a fixed mindset may see a challenge as something insurmountable, while someone with a growth mindset will frame it as an opportunity to learn and develop. The difference in these perspectives is huge, and it's all about how you choose to view the world around you. Framing doesn't just affect how others perceive you or the situations you face. It also impacts how you communicate and connect with others. If you want to persuade someone to take action, whether it's agreeing with your point of view or taking part in something, the way you present your message is key. Think about the way a politician presents a policy. Often they'll frame it in terms of hope, progress, and change, even though the underlying policy may not be drastically different from previous ones. The language used, the emphasis placed on certain values, and the emotional appeal all play a role in shaping how the message is received. In your own life, understanding the subtle art of framing can give you a profound advantage in your personal and professional interactions. Whether you're negotiating a business deal, discussing a point of view with a colleague, or even navigating a personal relationship, how you present your ideas will have a lasting impact on how they're received. If you present an idea with confidence, clarity, and emotional appeal, you're far more likely to persuade others to see things your way. Mastering framing means mastering the power of perception. The way you see the world shapes how you experience it, and the way you present your ideas shapes how others will respond. When you can frame your words, your actions, and your thoughts in a way that aligns with your intentions, you will find that your ability to influence the world around you becomes effortless and effective. So the next time you step into a conversation, a negotiation, or even just an everyday situation, remember that you have the power to frame it however you choose. The right frame can turn a simple discussion into a compelling conversation, a challenging situation into an opportunity for growth, and an ordinary interaction into an extraordinary one. Framing is a subtle art, but when you learn to wield it, you'll find that persuasion becomes not just a tool, but an intuitive, empowering force in your life. Remember, how you present something to others is just as important as what you present. And when you master the art of framing, you'll find that persuasion becomes a natural extension of who you are. It's not about tricking people or manipulating them, it's about guiding them to see the truth from a perspective they may never have considered. And that, my friend, is the true power of persuasion. Chapter 9. The role of emotional intelligence in persuasion. Emotions drive us more than we often realize. They influence the way we make decisions, interact with others, and most importantly, how we respond to the world around us. Understanding this truth is one of the most powerful tools in persuasion. If you can tap into your own emotional intelligence and understand the emotions of those around you, you can influence conversations, negotiations, and relationships in ways that go far beyond logic and reasoning. Emotional intelligence, EI, isn't just about understanding others' emotions, it's about managing your own and using that awareness to guide and shape your interactions. At the heart of emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive emotions, both in yourself and in others. It's the skill of recognizing emotional signals, both verbal and nonverbal, that allow you to gauge how someone is feeling at any given moment. This awareness is the first step toward persuasion because it allows you to respond in ways that resonate with the other person. If you're trying to persuade someone to consider your point of view and you sense that they're frustrated or closed off, understanding that emotion will help you adjust your approach. Instead of pushing harder, you might choose to show empathy, give them space to express their feelings, or shift the conversation to ease their discomfort. But emotional intelligence doesn't stop there. It's also about understanding why people feel the way they do. Emotions are often tied to deeper needs, desires, and fears. When you can identify the underlying motivations behind someone's emotional response, you can frame your message in a way that addresses those concerns. For example, if you're speaking with someone who feels insecure about a decision, your goal might not be to persuade them with more facts, but rather to appeal to their need for security and confidence. Emotional intelligence allows you to step into someone else's shoes, to see the world from their perspective, and to tailor your approach to meet their emotional state. Another key aspect of emotional intelligence in persuasion is the ability to regulate your own emotions. When you're calm, composed, and in control of your feelings, you can think clearly, respond thoughtfully, and make decisions that are aligned with your goals. On the other hand, if you let emotions like frustration, anger, or anxiety take over, you can cloud your judgment and negatively impact your ability to influence others. Imagine trying to persuade someone when you're visibly upset. Your tone of voice, body language, and facial expressions will likely convey your emotions before you even say a word. In those moments, your message might not even reach the other person because they're distracted by your emotional state. By learning to regulate your emotions, you create an environment in which your words carry more weight and your influence becomes stronger. Being able to manage emotions also means being able to stay calm under pressure. Persuasion isn't always smooth sailing. Sometimes conversations get heated, tensions rise, and people become defensive. When that happens, your ability to stay level-headed can make a world of difference. Think of a time when you were in a conversation with someone who was getting upset. Maybe they raised their voice, made accusations, or dismissed your ideas outright. How did you respond? Did you mirror their frustration, or did you remain calm, offering a steady, composed response? The latter is where emotional intelligence comes in. Staying calm allows you to think strategically, control the flow of the conversation, and guide it toward a positive outcome. It also helps the other person to feel heard and respected, which can open the door for deeper connection and mutual understanding. Empathy is another cornerstone of emotional intelligence that plays a significant role in persuasion. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It's not just about recognizing their emotions, but truly connecting with them on an emotional level. When you practice empathy, you send a message to the other person that their feelings matter, that you're not just trying to get something from them, but that you genuinely care about their experience. This kind of emotional connection fosters trust, which is vital for successful persuasion. People are more likely to be persuaded by someone they trust, because trust establishes credibility and rapport. Think about a time when someone really listened to you, when they truly understood your concerns or challenges. How did that make you feel? Most likely, you felt valued, heard, and respected. Now think about how that person influenced your decision-making in that moment. You were more open to their perspective because they understood where you were coming from. This is the power of empathy in persuasion. When you understand someone's emotional state and respond with genuine empathy, you create an emotional bond that can guide them toward the conclusion you're aiming for. The relationship between emotional intelligence and persuasion is also seen in the ability to manage conflicts effectively. In any persuasive conversation, conflict is inevitable. You're often trying to change someone's mind, alter their beliefs, or persuade them to act in a way that they may not have considered. When emotions run high, conflict can easily escalate. But if you can remain emotionally intelligent during times of tension, by actively listening, validating emotions, and addressing concerns thoughtfully, you can turn potential conflict into collaboration. The best persuaders don't shy away from conflict. They embrace it as an opportunity to listen, understand, and resolve. One of the most practical applications of emotional intelligence in persuasion is the use of emotional appeal. Emotions are far more persuasive than facts alone. When you appeal to someone's emotions, you create a connection that logic alone cannot achieve. Take the example of a charity asking for donations. The most effective campaigns don't just show statistics. They show the stories of people whose lives have been changed by the charity's work. They tap into emotions like compassion, empathy, and hope to inspire action. When you speak to someone's heart, rather than just their mind, you increase your chances of persuading them to take the action you want. But here's the key: emotional appeal must be genuine. If you manipulate emotions or try to pull at the heartstrings in a dishonest way, you risk losing trust and credibility. The best persuaders are authentic in their emotional appeal. They understand the importance of sincerity in their words and actions. They are transparent in their motivations and genuinely care about the well-being of others. Emotional intelligence in persuasion is not about playing on people's emotions to get what you want. It's about understanding emotions, respecting them, and using that understanding to create win-win situations for everyone involved. When you blend emotional intelligence with persuasion, you're not simply changing minds or convincing people to take action. You're building connections, fostering understanding, and creating lasting positive impact. Emotional intelligence empowers you to see beyond surface-level responses and dig deeper into the core of human experience. It enables you to connect on a more profound level, guiding others toward decisions that resonate with their values, needs, and desires. It's not manipulation, it's a partnership, and that partnership is the key to mastering the art of persuasion. Chapter 10: Overcoming Resistance and Handling Objections. Resistance is a natural part of human nature. It's something we all face when we try to persuade someone to see things our way or take action on an idea we believe in. People resist change, they resist new ideas, and they resist what makes them uncomfortable. But resistance doesn't mean defeat. It's simply a challenge to overcome. The key to successful persuasion is understanding why resistance happens in the first place and learning how to handle objections in a way that brings people closer to your point of view, rather than pushing them further away. At its core, resistance is about fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of being judged, or even fear of losing control. When you present an idea, a proposal, or a suggestion to someone, it's not just the content of the message they're responding to, it's how it makes them feel. Will this new idea threaten their sense of security? Will it disrupt their daily routine? These fears trigger resistance, and understanding them is the first step to overcoming them. When you're faced with resistance, the first thing to do is acknowledge it. Often we think that to be persuasive, we need to be persistent or forceful. We push our ideas harder, thinking that the more we insist, the more likely the other person is to agree. But in reality, that approach tends to have the opposite effect. The harder you push, the more the other person pushes back. Instead of continuing to battle against resistance, take a step back and acknowledge it. By recognizing the other person's hesitation or objection, you're showing that you respect their point of view, and that can diffuse much of the tension. For example, let's say you're trying to convince a colleague to join you on a new project, but they're hesitant. Instead of dismissing their concerns, you might say, "I can see why you might feel uncertain about this. I felt the same way at first." By showing empathy and understanding, you open up a space for honest conversation. Now the other person feels heard, and they're more likely to listen to your perspective. You're not trying to dismiss their feelings or bulldoze through their objections. Instead, you're creating a dialogue that allows for genuine exchange. Once resistance is acknowledged, the next step is to identify the underlying reasons for it. People don't always express their objections directly. Sometimes they'll give you surface-level reasons, like "I don't have time" or "it's too risky." These are just symptoms of deeper fears or concerns. It's your job to dig a little deeper and figure out what's really driving their resistance. When you ask thoughtful questions and listen carefully, you begin to uncover the real reasons behind their objections. Are they afraid of failure? Do they feel insecure about their ability to succeed? Are they worried about how others will perceive them? Once you understand the root cause of the resistance, you can address it more effectively. Let's say someone objects to an idea because they're afraid of failure. Rather than focusing on the details of your plan, you might address their fear directly. "I understand that you're worried about things not going as planned, but here's how we can manage the risk together." By acknowledging their fear and offering reassurance, you shift the conversation from a place of resistance to a place of collaboration. One of the most powerful ways to handle objections is by using reframing. Reframing is the art of presenting a situation from a different angle, allowing the other person to see it in a new light. It's about changing the perspective on a challenge or objection so that it no longer feels like a barrier, but rather an opportunity. For instance, if someone objects to an idea because they see it as a risk, you can reframe that by highlighting the potential reward or the opportunity for growth. Yes, there's some risk involved, but think of what we stand to gain if it works out. This could be a game changer for us. Reframing is not about ignoring the objections or pretending they don't matter. It's about shifting the focus to a more positive or empowering perspective. It's about guiding the other person to see the situation in a way that aligns with their values and goals. When you reframe objections in a way that resonates with their deeper motivations, you help them feel more confident about moving forward. Another powerful technique for overcoming resistance is to present solutions to objections rather than just pointing out the problem. For example, if someone is concerned about the time commitment required for a project, instead of simply saying, "You'll make time for it," offer a solution that makes the idea more manageable. "I understand that time is a concern. What if we break it down into smaller, more manageable steps that won't take too much time at once?" By offering a solution, you show that you've thought about their concerns and are willing to work with them to overcome the challenges. This approach shifts the dynamic from a one-sided conversation to a collaborative one. Instead of just defending your position, you're creating a space for problem-solving and mutual understanding. People are more likely to embrace a solution when they feel like they had a hand in shaping it. It's no longer just your idea, it's something you've worked on together. There are times, of course, when objections cannot be easily overcome or reframed. In these situations, it's important to respect the other person's decision. If someone is deeply resistant and not open to discussion, pushing harder can only damage the relationship. Recognize when it's time to step back and allow the person to make their own decision. Your job isn't to force someone to agree with you, it's to present your case thoughtfully. Listen to their objections and create an environment where they feel comfortable making an informed decision. Sometimes, the best way to overcome resistance is to give people the space they need to process the information. Not every objection needs an immediate response. People often need time to think things through and come to their own conclusions. If you've made your case effectively and addressed their concerns, trust that they will come to their decision in their own time. One final point is that overcoming resistance is not always about changing someone's mind. Sometimes it's about finding common ground and reaching a compromise that satisfies both parties. Persuasion isn't about winning, it's about finding solutions that work for everyone involved. If you're able to understand the other person's perspective and adjust your approach accordingly, you may find a way forward that benefits both sides. At the end of the day, handling objections and overcoming resistance requires patience, empathy, and flexibility. People resist for many reasons, but with the right mindset and techniques, you can navigate those objections and turn them into opportunities for deeper understanding and collaboration. When you approach resistance with respect and a willingness to work together, persuasion becomes less about convincing others to accept your point of view and more about creating a space where everyone can come to a mutually beneficial agreement. Chapter 11. Social Proof and Authority. How to build instant credibility. When we think about the decisions we make every day, whether it's choosing a restaurant, picking a product, or even deciding on a course of action, we tend to rely on cues from those around us. It's in our nature as humans to look for signals from others that we are making the right choice. This is where the concepts of social proof and authority come into play. These two psychological principles have a profound impact on persuasion, and when used correctly, they can help you build instant credibility and increase your influence in any situation. Social proof is a concept that draws from the idea that people tend to follow the actions of others, especially when they are uncertain about what to do. It's the reason why you might be more likely to try a new restaurant if it's packed with people, or why you might purchase a product online if it has dozens or even hundreds of positive reviews. At its core, social proof works because we trust the decisions of others, particularly those who we perceive as similar to us or who we view as knowledgeable. It's not just about blindly following the crowd, though. It's about a deep psychological instinct that when we see others making a decision, it provides a sense of validation that we're making the right choice. But social proof doesn't only apply to products or services. It's a powerful tool for persuasion in everyday interactions and relationships as well. Think about it when you're trying to persuade someone, especially in a situation where they might be hesitant or unsure. Demonstrating that others have already made the same decision or taken the same action can provide reassurance. This doesn't mean you should rely solely on external validation. Rather, you use it to strengthen your position and make your message more compelling. For example, if you're trying to convince someone to adopt a new strategy or approach, you can share stories of others who have had success with it. You're not just presenting facts, you're showing that others have walked the path you're suggesting, and their success can be a powerful motivator for someone else to follow suit. This principle becomes even more powerful when you leverage it with authority. Authority in the context of persuasion is the ability to influence others based on expertise, knowledge, or position. Authority gives you credibility, and when you combine it with social proof, you create a persuasive force that is almost impossible to ignore. Think about the way we respond to experts in various fields, whether it's a doctor, a successful entrepreneur, or a well-known thought leader. When these individuals speak, we listen because they have the authority that comes from their experience, education, or achievements. Building authority is not something that happens overnight, but there are ways to establish yourself as an expert in your field, and doing so can dramatically increase your persuasive power. One of the most effective ways to build authority is through demonstrated expertise. This could mean sharing your knowledge openly, writing articles, speaking at events, or creating content that showcases your skills and experience. The more you share your insights and help others solve problems, the more you position yourself as someone with valuable knowledge. When people see that you consistently add value, they will naturally look to you for guidance and advice. Another way to build authority is through association. If you're able to connect with other experts or be associated with high-quality brands, your credibility can increase by proximity. For example, imagine you're working with a well-known company on a project or collaborating with a respected professional in your field. Even if you're not yet widely recognized as an authority, your association with these established figures can help to establish you as someone who belongs in that circle. This type of social proof works by showing others that you are trusted and valued by people who already hold authority. Once you've built your authority and established credibility, you'll find that you can use social proof to further amplify your influence. Think about how companies use testimonials and reviews to promote their products. When potential customers see that others have had a positive experience, they're more likely to make a purchase. The same concept can be applied to any situation where you're trying to persuade someone. If you're trying to get someone to join your team or accept your idea, providing testimonials or evidence of success from others can significantly increase your persuasive power. This is why you often see leaders, experts, or influencers in various industries sharing success stories, statistics, or case studies. It's their way of using social proof to validate their authority and influence others to take action. But authority isn't just about what you know, it's also about how you present yourself. Confidence plays a crucial role in how you come across to others. When you communicate with confidence, you instantly enhance your authority. It's not about arrogance, it's about demonstrating certainty in your message. People are naturally drawn to those who speak with conviction because they feel that they can trust the message being delivered. When you combine knowledge with confidence, you create a powerful aura of authority that can persuade people to listen and take action. Confidence helps you project authority, but humility keeps that authority grounded. There's a fine line between being confident and coming across as overbearing, so it's important to strike a balance. You want to be perceived as someone who is sure of their expertise, but also open to feedback and discussion. The power of social proof and authority is also deeply rooted in human behavior. We are social creatures by nature, and we often look to others for cues on how to behave or what decisions to make. When you establish yourself as a credible figure, others will naturally look to you for guidance. And when you demonstrate that others have already made the choice you're advocating for, it becomes easier for others to follow suit. People don't want to feel like they're making the wrong decision or going against the grain. Social proof and authority tap into this desire to make the right choice, and in turn, it helps persuade others to follow your lead. One important thing to remember, however, is that social proof and authority must be genuine to be effective. People can see through manipulation or empty claims. If you're presenting social proof or positioning yourself as an authority, it's essential that you do so honestly. Authenticity is the key to building trust. If people sense that you're trying to manipulate them or use social proof in a deceptive way, it can backfire, causing them to feel distrustful and skeptical of your intentions. Authenticity builds long-term influence, while manipulation may offer short-term gains but ultimately damages your reputation. If you want to build authority and leverage social proof in a way that is both effective and ethical, start by focusing on providing real value to others. Share your expertise, help others succeed, and be consistent in your actions. Your reputation will grow naturally, and the more people see you as an expert who can be trusted, the more persuasive your message will become. In time, the social proof of your success, combined with the authority you've earned, will create a powerful force of influence that others can't help but be drawn to. Chapter 12. The Scarcity and Urgency Principle. There's a certain magic that happens when something feels limited. It taps into a primal part of our nature, the fear of missing out, the need to seize opportunities before they slip through our fingers. This is the essence of the scarcity and urgency principle, two of the most powerful tools in persuasion. When used properly, they can create a sense of importance and drive action. Understanding how scarcity and urgency work and how to apply them effectively can transform the way you influence others and motivate them to take the steps you want them to. Scarcity in its simplest form is the idea that something is in limited supply. We've all experienced it, the limited time offer, the only a few left in stock, or the exclusive access that makes us feel like we need to act now before the opportunity disappears. The reason scarcity works so well is deeply ingrained in our evolutionary psychology. Our ancestors lived in an environment where resources were often scarce: food, shelter, safety, so when something appeared to be in short supply, it triggered an instinctual desire to grab it before it was gone. It wasn't just about desire, it was about survival. That instinct hasn't changed, even in our modern world, which is why scarcity can still have such a powerful effect on us today. Think about the last time you saw a limited time promotion. Maybe it was an item on sale or an exclusive event you could only access for a short window of time. Did you feel that little jolt of excitement or anxiety? That's scarcity at work. Our brains are wired to react to limited availability because we want to ensure we don't miss out on something valuable. This can be harnessed to persuade people to take action, whether it's getting them to buy a product, sign up for a service, or even join a cause. The more something seems rare or fleeting, the more it becomes desirable. Urgency works hand in hand with scarcity, adding an extra layer of pressure. Urgency is about creating a sense of time, making people feel that they need to act now or they'll lose the opportunity. The deadline is approaching, the clock is ticking, and if they don't make a move soon, they will be left behind. This is a particularly effective tactic because it makes the decision feel more immediate. The longer something feels like it can be put off, the less likely people are to act. But when you create a sense of urgency, you force people to confront the idea that now is the time. The window is closing, and if they don't act now, they might miss out entirely. The scarcity principle often appears in sales and marketing, but its influence extends far beyond that. Think about how social events work, how invitations can sometimes feel like an exclusive privilege. When you're invited to a limited event, whether it's a party, a special gathering, or even a conference, there's a part of you that feels honored. It's exclusive. Not everyone gets an invite, so you're part of a select group. This sense of exclusivity is a direct application of scarcity, and it taps into the human desire to feel important and valued. The more something feels like a special privilege, the more people will want it. It's not just the event itself, but the idea that not everyone can have access to it. This principle of exclusivity can be used in almost any scenario to increase perceived value and influence decisions. Scarcity and urgency also operate in a slightly more subtle way when it comes to self-perception. When we think of something as being rare, we associate it with quality. If something is hard to get, we often assume that it must be worth more. This is why limited edition items, collectibles, and unique opportunities are often so much more attractive than regular everyday options. The idea is that if it's rare, it must be special, and it must be something we should seek out. The power of scarcity feeds into our desire for significance and our instinct to secure the best possible outcome. This can be applied to personal achievements as well. The more you present something as rare or valuable, whether it's an opportunity to work with you, join your team, or experience something new, the more you can boost its appeal. But with power comes responsibility. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that creating a sense of urgency or scarcity can be used to manipulate others. And while it can be incredibly effective, it's important to wield these principles ethically. If you create false urgency, such as saying a deal is about to expire when it's really available indefinitely, people will begin to distrust you. The same goes for false scarcity. If you advertise that only a few spots are available when you've got an unlimited number, your credibility will take a hit. When scarcity and urgency are used honestly and genuinely, they can be incredibly persuasive. But when they're used as a tactic for manipulation, they can backfire and leave people feeling deceived and disillusioned. One of the most effective ways to use scarcity and urgency in an ethical way is by delivering on your promises. If you say that a promotion is only available for a limited time, make sure it truly is. If you say there are only a few spots left, make sure there aren't more available than what you've stated. The idea is not to create a false sense of value, but to highlight the real value of the opportunity at hand. If you're offering something that is genuinely limited, whether it's your time, your product, or your expertise, then make sure that you communicate that clearly and honestly. This not only boosts your influence, but helps to build long-term trust and credibility. Scarcity and urgency are also incredibly effective when you're trying to motivate people to act in their own best interest. Sometimes, people hesitate to take action because they feel that they have all the time in the world, or that they can always come back to something later. But the truth is, life doesn't wait. Time moves quickly, and opportunities often slip away before we realize they've passed us by. When you create urgency around a decision, you remind people that now is the time to act before they miss out on something that could change their lives for the better. This is especially true when it comes to personal growth or important decisions that can impact their future. By making the moment feel urgent, you help them take the leap they've been hesitant to make. In conclusion, scarcity and urgency are powerful principles of persuasion because they tap into our basic instincts and desires. The fear of missing out, the desire to act before it's too late, and the longing for something that is perceived as rare all combine to make these principles incredibly effective. When used ethically and genuinely, scarcity and urgency can not only drive action, but also build trust and credibility. So the next time you want to persuade someone to act, consider whether you can create a sense of scarcity or urgency around the decision. It's not about manipulating the other person, it's about helping them realize that now is the moment to take action before the opportunity passes them by. Chapter 13: The Psychology of Negotiation. Negotiation isn't just about haggling over prices or securing deals. It's about understanding human nature, communication, and the delicate art of persuasion. It's about creating a situation where both parties walk away feeling like they've gained something, even if it's not exactly what they expected when they first started. Whether you're negotiating a business deal, trying to make a change in your workplace, or even simply persuading a friend to go with your idea for the weekend, negotiation skills are something that can be refined and applied to almost every aspect of life. In fact, the psychology behind negotiation is often more important than the hard facts, numbers, or strategies you bring to the table. At the heart of negotiation is the understanding that people are driven by both rational and emotional factors. On the surface, you may think a negotiation is all about the numbers or terms, things like price, time, or deliverables. But the truth is, people's decisions are often guided by their emotions just as much as, if not more than, by their logic. Recognizing this dynamic is the first step toward mastering the psychology of negotiation. While logical reasoning plays a role, understanding emotions and human behavior is often the key to getting the outcome you want. How a person feels during a negotiation will largely influence whether or not they agree to your terms. One of the most important psychological principles in negotiation is the idea of value perception. This refers to how people perceive the value of something, not just in terms of its price, but also in terms of how it makes them feel. People are more likely to agree to terms that they feel give them more value than they initially expected. This is why negotiations aren't just about presenting facts. It's about framing those facts in a way that makes the other party see them as more valuable. If you want to get someone to agree to your terms, it's important to show them how those terms benefit them, not just what they cost or what they require. For example, imagine you're negotiating with a potential client about the price of a service you offer. Instead of just focusing on the price tag, focus on the value the client will get from your service. Show them how it will save them time, improve their efficiency, or help them achieve their goals more effectively. When people can see that the value they're receiving far outweighs the cost they're paying, they're more likely to say yes. The principle of value perception is powerful because it taps into people's desire to get more for less, or at least to feel that they are receiving a good deal. At the same time, negotiation also relies heavily on social dynamics. People are influenced by the way others interact with them and the way they perceive their role in a given context. This is where the concept of reciprocity comes into play. When one party makes a concession or offers something of value, the other party feels the need to reciprocate. It's a fundamental human instinct to return favors, and this instinct is often used strategically in negotiations. If you offer something small, it can create a sense of obligation in the other party to offer something in return, even if it's just a small gesture. This helps build goodwill and can set the stage for a more favorable outcome for you. Reciprocity can also work in reverse. If you start the negotiation by offering something large or valuable to the other party, they will often feel compelled to return the favor with something of equivalent value. This principle works because it creates a sense of fairness and balance in the exchange. People are more likely to agree to terms if they feel like they are getting something of equal value in return, or even something a little more valuable than they expected. In addition to reciprocity, another key psychological factor in negotiation is anchoring. Anchoring refers to the psychological tendency to rely too heavily on the first piece of information offered, the anchor, when making decisions. In a negotiation, the first offer you make can set the tone for the entire discussion. If you're selling something, for instance, your initial offer or price will serve as the anchor against which the other party will evaluate all future offers. If your first offer is too low, it can make it harder to negotiate a higher price later. On the other hand, if your first offer is too high, the other party may feel that they're being taken advantage of, and the negotiation may fall apart. The key to using anchoring effectively is setting the right tone from the beginning. Your initial offer or proposal should be reasonable, but it should also be high enough to leave room for negotiation. If you're negotiating a salary, for example, you don't want to start with the exact number you're willing to accept. Instead, aim for an offer that's slightly higher than what you hope to achieve. This gives you room to make concessions and still land within your target range. At the same time, make sure your offer doesn't seem unrealistic or out of touch with what the other party might expect. The right anchor sets a psychological frame that makes it easier for both sides to agree to terms. Framing is another psychological tool that plays a significant role in negotiation. The way you present your offers, ideas, or terms can have a huge impact on how they are perceived. Framing refers to the context or language you use to present information. For example, you might frame a price in a way that makes it sound more appealing, such as breaking it down into monthly payments instead of one lump sum. Or you could frame a concession as something that benefits the other party, even if it's just a small gesture. The way you present your offer matters, and it can make the difference between a deal being accepted or rejected. The principle of likability also plays a major role in negotiation. People are more likely to agree to terms from someone they like or feel positively toward. Building rapport and establishing trust early on in the negotiation can make a significant difference in the outcome. This is why it's important to engage in active listening, show empathy, and make an effort to understand the other party's needs and concerns. When you take the time to build a genuine connection and show that you're invested in the other person's success, it becomes easier to find common ground and reach an agreement. Finally, there's the role of emotion in negotiation. While it's important to remain calm and rational during a negotiation, it's equally important to recognize that emotions play a central role in decision-making. People are often influenced by their feelings, even if they don't fully realize it. If you can connect with the other party on an emotional level by acknowledging their frustrations, celebrating their successes, or appealing to their aspirations, you can create a stronger bond and make it easier to reach an agreement. Emotional intelligence, the ability to read and respond to emotions, is an essential skill for effective negotiators. In conclusion, negotiation is more than just a process of exchanging terms. It's a dance between rationality and emotion, strategy and psychology. By understanding the psychological principles that drive human behavior, you can increase your chances of achieving a favorable outcome. Whether it's through framing, reciprocity, or building rapport, the ability to persuade others through negotiation is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. The next time you find yourself in a negotiation, remember that success isn't just about the facts. It's about connecting with the other person, understanding their needs, and finding a mutually beneficial solution. Chapter 14. The influence of reciprocity. We've all experienced it in some form or another, whether we've received a favor and felt compelled to return it, or given something and expected a gesture in return. It's this very psychological principle that underlies much of human interaction, from personal relationships to business transactions, and of course to the art of persuasion. The principle of reciprocity is simple. When someone does something for you, you naturally feel the urge to do something in return. This simple exchange of favors is deeply embedded in our social and psychological fabric. Understanding how to leverage reciprocity effectively can transform your ability to influence and persuade others. The power of reciprocity lies in its ability to create a sense of fairness and balance. When we receive something, whether it's a tangible item or an intangible benefit, like help or kindness, we feel a psychological debt. This feeling of indebtedness often drives us to reciprocate, sometimes even in situations where we don't consciously choose to do so. It's a human instinct that helps build trust and maintain social bonds. The interesting thing about reciprocity is that the action or favor you give doesn't have to be of equal value to what you receive. Often even small gestures can generate a feeling of obligation that compels the other person to respond in kind. This dynamic can be used strategically in negotiations, sales, or any situation where you're trying to influence someone's behavior or decision-making. If you can offer something of value to another person, something that they weren't expecting, they're much more likely to reciprocate in some way. The power of this principle is so profound that it's often used by marketers, salespeople, and negotiators to establish goodwill and open the door for future requests or agreements. But the beauty of reciprocity is that it doesn't require grand gestures to be effective. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness, thoughtfulness, or generosity can spark the beginning of a mutually beneficial relationship. Imagine you're negotiating with a potential client for a business deal. Rather than immediately jumping into the terms or focusing solely on your needs, you take the time to listen to their concerns, offer advice, or provide a resource they might find helpful. You might even give them something small, like a free consultation or a valuable piece of information that helps them solve a problem. In doing so, you're creating a sense of goodwill, and this can open the door for them to reciprocate, whether it's through agreeing to your terms or finding ways to help you in return. This simple act of giving, without expecting anything in return, can set the stage for a much more favorable outcome in the long run. What's important to understand is that reciprocity doesn't always happen in the form of a direct exchange. Sometimes, the way someone reciprocates can be indirect or delayed. You may give something today and not receive anything in return for weeks, months, or even years. But the seed you've planted through your act of kindness or generosity will often come to fruition at some point, even if you don't immediately see the benefits. This is especially true in situations where you've established trust and shown that your actions are not motivated by self-interest, but by a genuine desire to help the other person. Over time, this builds a reputation that will increase your influence and make it easier to get what you want in the future. One of the most powerful aspects of reciprocity is that it works in both directions. Not only can you use it to influence others, but you can also be on the receiving end of it. People naturally want to return favors, and by cultivating a mindset of generosity and kindness, you can create a network of support and influence that helps you achieve your goals. The more you give, whether it's your time, energy, knowledge, or resources, the more others will feel compelled to reciprocate, and the more influence you'll have in the long run. The concept of reciprocity also ties into the idea of social proof. When you make an offering or perform an act of generosity, you're not just influencing one person, you're also signaling to others in the environment that you are someone who adds value and is worthy of being supported. This creates a ripple effect, as others see you as someone who is trusted and respected, and they may follow suit. Social proof is a powerful tool in persuasion because people tend to rely on the actions of others when making decisions. If someone sees that you've helped others or made contributions to a community, they're more likely to want to be part of that cycle of giving and receiving. This creates an environment where reciprocity flourishes and everyone involved benefits. At the same time, it's essential to remember that reciprocity is not about manipulation or creating false expectations. When you use reciprocity, it should come from a place of genuine desire to help, rather than from a transactional mindset. If people sense that your actions are motivated purely by self-interest, or that you're only giving to get something in return, the effectiveness of reciprocity will diminish significantly. Authenticity is key. People are naturally good at sensing insincerity, and if they feel like you're using them or trying to take advantage of them, they'll be much less likely to respond to your gestures. This is where the concept of gratitude comes into play. Gratitude is a powerful force that reinforces the principle of reciprocity. When you show genuine appreciation for someone's help or a favor they've done for you, you not only strengthen your bond with that person, but you also reinforce the cycle of reciprocity. Gratitude encourages people to continue giving and creates an atmosphere of mutual respect and goodwill. So whether you're giving or receiving, showing genuine gratitude amplifies the positive effects of reciprocity and strengthens your relationships. Think of the times when you've received something unexpected, whether it was help with a project, a kind word, or even just a thoughtful gesture. How did you feel afterward? Chances are you felt compelled to return the favor, even if you didn't immediately know how. This is the power of reciprocity in action. It's not just about exchanging favors in the moment, but about building relationships and creating a cycle of support that lasts over time. This is how influence grows, not through manipulation, but through consistent, genuine actions that benefit everyone involved. In the end, the influence of reciprocity is all about creating a positive feedback loop. When you give without expectation, others feel the urge to give in return, and this sets the stage for long-term, mutually beneficial relationships. Whether you're negotiating, building a business, or strengthening personal relationships, understanding and leveraging the power of reciprocity can make a world of difference. It's one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal, but only if it's used authentically, with a genuine desire to build trust, offer value, and create a positive impact for all parties involved. Chapter 15. The Power of Confidence and Certainty. It's like an invisible force that draws people to you, making them listen to what you say, trust your judgment, and believe in your actions. Confidence doesn't need to be loud, nor does it have to be arrogant. In fact, the most powerful kind of confidence often comes in a calm, composed, and self-assured form. When you have confidence, you not only believe in yourself, but you also exude that belief, creating a ripple effect that influences those around you. Confidence has a magnetic quality that can help you achieve things you may have once thought were beyond your reach. But confidence is not something you're born with, it's something that is built. It's a skill that can be cultivated and strengthened over time, and it starts with the mindset you hold about yourself and your abilities. The first step toward building confidence is believing that you are capable of achieving your goals, no matter how big or small. This belief is the foundation of all confidence. Without it, there will always be doubt, hesitation, and insecurity holding you back. It's the certainty in yourself, in your knowledge, in your skills, and in your potential that allows you to step forward into opportunities and challenges without fear of failure. The truth is, we all experience moments of doubt. Confidence doesn't mean that you'll never feel insecure, unsure, or uncertain. Rather, it's about how you handle those moments. A confident person doesn't eliminate self-doubt completely. They learn to manage it. They acknowledge the fear, but don't let it control their decisions. They understand that doubt is a normal part of growth, and instead of avoiding it, they use it as fuel to push forward, knowing that they can overcome whatever challenges lie ahead. One of the most powerful tools for building confidence is taking action, even when you don't feel ready. Confidence is not something that's given to you, it's something you earn through consistent effort and courage. Every time you take action, you build a little more trust in yourself. You prove to yourself that you're capable. The more actions you take, the more your confidence grows. And while the first steps may feel uncomfortable or intimidating, each one brings you closer to the person you want to become. This doesn't mean you should act impulsively or without thought. Confidence is about making decisions with clarity and certainty, even if those decisions come with risk. A confident person doesn't shy away from taking calculated risks because they trust their ability to navigate through them. They know that failure is not the end, but rather a lesson, a step in the process of learning and growing. And it's through this mindset that confidence begins to flourish, when you embrace challenges as opportunities for growth, not as obstacles to avoid. One of the key aspects of confidence is the ability to make decisions quickly and stick to them. Indecision is the enemy of confidence. When you waver, when you second-guess yourself or overthink your options, you rob yourself of the certainty needed to move forward. Confident people make decisions with clarity, even if they don't have all the information. They understand that waiting for perfect conditions or perfect knowledge will only delay their progress. Instead, they trust themselves enough to make a decision and adjust as they go. The act of making a decision and then committing to it is what builds confidence. It's a muscle that strengthens the more you use it. Another powerful aspect of confidence is the ability to believe in your worth. Too often, people doubt their value and hesitate to claim what they deserve. Whether it's asking for a raise, pursuing a new opportunity, or speaking up for yourself, a lack of confidence can hold you back from taking what's rightfully yours. The key to unlocking your confidence in these situations is understanding that you are worthy of success, respect, and happiness. No one can give you that worth. It's something you have to claim for yourself, and when you step into that power, when you truly believe that you deserve the best, others will begin to see you in the same light. A huge part of confidence is also having the ability to trust in your abilities, your skills, and your intuition. When you trust yourself, you trust your decisions and actions. You stop looking for external validation, and instead you learn to validate yourself. Confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about being comfortable with who you are and embracing your flaws as part of your unique journey. Perfectionism can be a major barrier to confidence because it holds you to an unrealistic standard. When you let go of the need to be perfect, you allow yourself the freedom to be imperfectly confident. But confidence isn't just about believing in yourself, it's also about how you carry yourself in the world. How you present yourself, how you speak, and even how you walk can all influence how others perceive your confidence. Body language plays a huge role in conveying self-assurance. When you stand tall, make eye contact, and speak with conviction, you are signaling to both yourself and others that you are confident in who you are. Your body language can reinforce your internal belief in yourself, and over time it becomes second nature. When you walk into a room with your head held high and a strong posture, people notice. They feel your confidence even before you say a word. But confidence also means being comfortable in your own skin. It's about accepting yourself as you are, imperfections and all. Too often people try to project an image of perfection or try to be someone they're not in an attempt to gain approval. But true confidence comes from authenticity. When you are authentic and comfortable being yourself, you don't need to seek validation from others. You're already enough. People are naturally drawn to authenticity. When you speak with certainty, knowing who you are and what you stand for, others respect that. They trust it, and most importantly, they believe in it. At the same time, confidence requires vulnerability. It's about being willing to show up as yourself without hiding behind a mask. Vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's a strength. When you allow yourself to be open and real with others, you create deeper connections and build trust. It takes confidence to be vulnerable because it means putting yourself out there, knowing that there may be risk involved. But it's in those moments of vulnerability that true connection happens. It's in those moments that people see you not just as someone who's confident, but as someone who's real, relatable, and human. In every aspect of life, whether in your personal relationships, your career, or your daily activities, confidence opens doors. It enables you to take risks, pursue opportunities, and face challenges head-on. It allows you to speak your truth and pursue your goals without hesitation. But the most important thing to remember is that confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about trusting yourself, embracing your uniqueness, and continuing to take action, no matter what obstacles come your way. The more you practice confidence, the more it becomes a natural part of who you are. And with that confidence comes a kind of certainty in yourself, in your decisions, and in your future. This certainty is what propels you forward, making you unstoppable on your journey to success. Chapter 16. Persuading in Business and Sales. In business, the ability to persuade is more than just a useful skill, it's essential. Whether you're trying to land a client, negotiate a deal, or convince a colleague of the value of your idea, persuasion plays a central role in every aspect of business. But persuasion in the business world isn't about manipulation or using clever tactics to get your way. It's about building trust, offering value, and creating connections that benefit everyone involved. It's about understanding the needs of others and aligning your goals with those needs in a way that fosters mutual success. The first step in mastering persuasion in business is developing a deep understanding of your audience. It doesn't matter how great your product or service is. If you don't understand what your audience truly wants or needs, your pitch will fall flat. This doesn't just apply to customers. It applies to anyone you are trying to influence, from investors to team members. You have to listen more than you speak. By paying close attention to their concerns, desires, and pain points, you gain valuable insight into how you can best serve them. The most successful persuaders don't push their ideas onto others. They make their ideas irresistible by framing them in a way that speaks directly to the other person's motivations and goals. Effective persuasion starts with empathy. Empathy isn't just about being kind or understanding. It's about genuinely seeing the world from someone else's perspective. When you understand the other person's challenges, desires, and priorities, you can tailor your message to meet those needs. It's the foundation of building rapport, and without rapport, persuasion becomes far more difficult. People buy from people they trust, and empathy is a key ingredient in building that trust. It allows you to create a connection, which in turn makes it easier to influence their decisions. When you're trying to persuade in business, remember that facts alone rarely drive decisions. While data and logic are important, most decisions are still emotionally driven. People don't just buy products, they buy into ideas, feelings, and possibilities. They buy because they believe in what something can do for them or how it can make their lives better. This is where the art of storytelling becomes incredibly powerful. Storytelling allows you to frame your product or idea in a way that resonates on a deeper emotional level. Instead of simply stating the benefits of your product, you tell a story that highlights how it solves a problem, makes life easier, or improves the situation of your client or customer. By painting a vivid picture, you engage both the emotional and rational sides of the brain, making your pitch much more compelling. But effective persuasion in business isn't just about what you say, it's also about how you say it. The language you use can have a profound impact on how your message is received. Words have power. The tone, the pacing, and the phrasing of your message all affect the way your audience interprets your ideas. Persuasive language is clear, confident, and positive. It's about framing your offer in a way that makes it feel urgent, necessary, and irresistible. When you speak with conviction, others are more likely to believe in what you're offering. They will see you as an authority, and that authority increases your persuasive power. However, persuasion in business isn't just about what you say in a presentation or during a pitch. It's about how you carry yourself at all times. Confidence is contagious. When you are confident in your ideas, people naturally become more inclined to listen to you. If you stand tall, make eye contact, and speak with conviction, you signal to others that you are someone who can be trusted, someone who knows what they're talking about. In business, a strong presence can be just as persuasive as a well-crafted argument. People are more likely to be influenced by someone who appears sure of themselves, someone who exudes competence and authority. The ability to adapt your message to different audiences is another crucial component of persuasion in business. What works in one situation might not work in another, and being able to read the room and adjust your approach accordingly can make all the difference. In some cases, you might need to appeal to someone's emotions, while in others, logic and facts might be more important. Some people might respond better to a casual conversational approach, while others might prefer a more formal, direct style. The key is flexibility, being able to recognize the needs of the audience and adjust your delivery to meet those needs. This is where emotional intelligence comes into play. Being aware of the emotional dynamics of a situation allows you to choose the most effective persuasive strategy. Negotiation is one of the most important aspects of persuasion in business. In any negotiation, there are often two sides with competing interests. The goal is to find a solution that satisfies both parties, and this requires skillful persuasion. In a negotiation, it's important to start by building rapport and finding common ground. When both parties feel understood and respected, the negotiation process becomes much smoother. From there, you can present your ideas in a way that appeals to the other person's interests. Persuasion in negotiation isn't about forcing someone to agree with you. It's about finding a win-win situation where both sides feel like they've gained something valuable. One of the key tactics in business persuasion is demonstrating value. You can be as persuasive as you like, but if the value isn't clear, your audience won't buy in. Value isn't just about price, it's about the long-term benefits of what you're offering. In a business context, showing value means making it clear how your product or service will improve the other person's situation. This can be done by showcasing testimonials, sharing case studies, or demonstrating how your offering has worked for others in similar situations. The more you can show how your idea or solution has worked for others, the more persuasive it becomes. In sales, persuasion is often about timing. You need to be able to read when the time is right to make an offer. Timing is about knowing when to push and when to pull back, when to offer more information, and when to let the other person take the lead. Pushing too hard too quickly can turn someone off, while being too passive can cause you to lose the sale. Learning the delicate art of timing in persuasion is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. It's about being attuned to the other person's needs and adjusting your approach accordingly. It's also important to remember that persuasion in business isn't a one-time event, it's an ongoing process. Persuasion is about building relationships, not simply closing deals. The most successful business people don't just focus on making a sale, they focus on creating long-term partnerships. They build trust, they provide value over time, and they ensure that their customers or clients feel supported long after the deal has been closed. This long-term approach to persuasion fosters loyalty, encourages repeat business, and leads to even greater opportunities down the road. Ultimately, persuasion in business is about understanding that you're not just selling a product or service, you're selling a solution. You're offering something that helps others achieve their goals or overcome their challenges. The more you can frame your offerings in terms of the value they provide, the more persuasive you'll be. People don't buy because they need a product. They buy because they need what the product can do for them. When you focus on the solution, you move from being a seller to being a trusted advisor. And when you become a trusted advisor, persuasion becomes a natural, effortless part of your business interactions. In the end, persuasion in business is about alignment. It's about finding the common ground between what you want and what the other person needs. When you align your goals with the goals of your audience, persuasion becomes a natural process of collaboration rather than manipulation. This mindset shift transforms the way you approach business, making persuasion not only more effective, but also more ethical and sustainable in the long run. Through empathy, understanding, and a genuine commitment to helping others succeed, you can become a master persuader in the world of business. Chapter 17: Persuasion in Relationships and Social Life. Persuasion is often seen as a tool used to convince others to take a specific action or adopt a particular point of view. While this is certainly one way to think about persuasion, there's a deeper and more profound role that persuasion plays in our lives, especially within the context of our relationships and social interactions. Whether we're influencing our partners, friends, family, or colleagues, the way we persuade is often tied to how we understand and connect with others on a personal level. This connection is rooted in empathy, trust, and a shared sense of respect. And when we use persuasion thoughtfully and ethically in relationships, it can strengthen bonds, foster understanding, and create lasting, meaningful connections. In relationships, persuasion is often not about forcing someone to see things your way or to do something that serves your interests. Instead, it's about communicating in a way that encourages open dialogue, mutual understanding, and shared decision-making. The key is not to manipulate or pressure someone into agreement, but to present your perspective in a way that resonates with them. This requires an understanding of where they are coming from, what their values, goals, and concerns are, and then framing your thoughts or suggestions in a way that aligns with those. When you approach persuasion in relationships with this mindset, you show a level of respect that makes others feel heard and valued, and that's often the starting point for a healthy exchange of ideas. The first step in persuasion within relationships is recognizing the power of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is your ability to understand your own emotions and the emotions of others, and to use that understanding to guide your thoughts, behaviors, and interactions. In the context of relationships, emotional intelligence allows you to gauge the mood and emotional state of the people around you. It helps you navigate sensitive conversations and gives you insight into how others are likely to respond to your words or actions. When you're persuasive in a way that takes into account how the other person feels, you create a space where honest conversations can happen and where both parties are more open to understanding each other's perspectives. Another important aspect of persuasion in relationships is the ability to listen. True listening isn't just about hearing the words someone says, it's about understanding the meaning behind those words, the emotions driving them, and the context in which they are being spoken. Active listening is a powerful tool in persuasion because it allows you to gather crucial information about the other person's thoughts, feelings, and needs. When you listen attentively, you show that you value the other person's point of view, and this helps to create an atmosphere of trust and openness. Trust is the foundation of any healthy relationship, and when people feel that they are being truly heard, they are far more likely to trust you and be persuaded by what you have to say. In social life, persuasion isn't always about deep or life-changing discussions. Sometimes it's about the small, everyday interactions we have with those around us, convincing a friend to try a new restaurant, persuading a colleague to support an idea, or even influencing a group decision. Even in these seemingly insignificant moments, the principles of persuasion play a key role. The way you present an idea, how you express enthusiasm, and the tone of your voice can all influence how others respond. Social interactions are often spontaneous, and our ability to persuade others in these moments relies on our emotional intelligence, our awareness of the situation, and our ability to communicate in a way that resonates with those around us. Persuasion also plays a critical role in conflict resolution within relationships. Disagreements and misunderstandings are inevitable, but how we handle them can make or break the relationship. When a conflict arises, persuasion isn't about forcing your point of view or trying to win the argument. Instead, it's about finding common ground, demonstrating empathy, and guiding the conversation toward a resolution that satisfies both parties. It's about persuading the other person to see that your goal isn't to be right, but to find a solution that works for both of you. In this sense, persuasion becomes a tool for collaboration, for fostering understanding, and for ultimately strengthening the bond between you and the other person. In romantic relationships, persuasion takes on even deeper significance. Love and partnership often require us to navigate delicate situations, express vulnerability, and negotiate differing needs and desires. Persuasion in this context is about creating an environment where both people feel supported, understood, and valued. It's about using your words and actions to inspire positive change or encourage growth, but always with a sense of compassion and respect. When you approach persuasion from a place of love, you're not simply trying to get the other person to see things your way. You're working toward a shared vision of growth and happiness. This can mean anything from encouraging a partner to pursue their passions, to helping them navigate a challenging situation, or even to gently persuading them to take care of their health and well-being. However, as with any form of influence, persuasion in relationships must be handled with care. If you use persuasion to manipulate or control others, it will inevitably lead to resentment and breakdowns in trust. Relationships are not about using influence to get what you want at the expense of someone else's needs or well-being. Instead, true persuasion is rooted in a win-win mentality where both parties feel respected, heard, and valued. It's about guiding others toward decisions that align with their best interests while also considering your own. When you approach persuasion in this way, relationships can flourish, and the bonds between you and the people you care about can become stronger, deeper, and more resilient. In social settings, the ability to persuade others can also extend to the way you influence group dynamics. Whether you're leading a group of friends in making a decision, coordinating a team project at work, or navigating a community event, your ability to persuade can have a significant impact on the group's cohesion and effectiveness. It's important to understand that in group settings, persuasion isn't just about getting your way, it's about bringing everyone's ideas and contributions together in a way that honors each individual's input. A good persuader in a social context doesn't dominate the conversation or dismiss others' ideas. They find a way to integrate diverse perspectives and guide the group toward a collective decision that everyone can agree on. One of the most important aspects of persuasion in social life is the role of authenticity. People are far more likely to be persuaded by someone who is genuine, honest, and sincere. If you are simply trying to manipulate or deceive others, it won't take long for people to see through your intentions. Authenticity builds trust, and trust is essential in any relationship. When you are authentic in your communication, others are more likely to listen, to understand where you're coming from, and to be persuaded by your ideas. Ultimately, the power of persuasion in relationships and social life comes down to one thing: the ability to connect with others on a human level. Whether you're influencing a friend, a colleague, a partner, or a group, the key is to approach persuasion with empathy, honesty, and respect. When you engage with others from a place of genuine care and understanding, your words have the power to inspire, motivate, and guide. And when you use persuasion ethically and responsibly, you not only strengthen your relationships, but also contribute to a culture of trust, collaboration, and mutual respect in the world around you. Chapter 18. Persuasion in Leadership and Public Speaking. As a leader, the ability to persuade isn't just an asset, it's essential. In fact, leadership and persuasion go hand in hand. A true leader must be able to inspire, motivate, and guide others toward a shared vision. This requires an understanding of how to influence others, not through force or manipulation, but through the power of words, actions, and ideas. Whether you're leading a team, addressing a group, or navigating a complex organizational challenge, the art of persuasion is what will allow you to move people in a meaningful way. Leadership isn't about commanding others to follow you, it's about showing them where to go and making them want to follow you. At the heart of persuasive leadership is the ability to connect with people. Effective leaders know that they must first win the trust and respect of those they lead. Without trust, no amount of persuasion will work. But trust isn't something that can be demanded. It's earned over time through consistency, integrity, and transparency. When you act in alignment with your values, when you show others that you have their best interests at heart, you begin to build trust. Trust is the foundation upon which persuasive leadership is built. Once people trust you, they are far more likely to listen to your ideas, follow your guidance, and ultimately act upon your vision. The most persuasive leaders are those who lead by example. Words without actions are hollow. People are far more likely to be persuaded by what you do than by what you say. If you want your team to be motivated, show them what motivation looks like. If you want them to take initiative, demonstrate the kind of initiative you expect from them. People are incredibly perceptive. They notice when a leader is genuinely committed to the cause, when their actions align with their words. Leading by example doesn't just inspire others, it gives them a roadmap for how to act. It provides a clear demonstration of the behaviors, attitudes, and values that you want to instill in your team. By being the living embodiment of what you preach, you create a powerful persuasive force that influences others on a deep personal level. In addition to leading by example, persuasive leadership requires effective communication. Being a strong communicator doesn't mean simply talking a lot or sounding authoritative. It means being clear, concise, and engaging. The best communicators are those who can take complex ideas and break them down into language that everyone can understand. They know how to listen actively, they understand the needs and concerns of their audience, and they adapt their message to resonate with those they're speaking to. Persuasive leaders are able to convey their ideas in a way that makes others feel heard, valued, and inspired to act. When you speak with clarity and conviction, people are more likely to follow your lead. They trust that you know what you're talking about, and they're more inclined to buy into your vision. A key element of persuasive leadership is the ability to paint a vivid picture of the future. People follow leaders because they believe in the leader's vision. When you have a clear sense of where you're going, and you can communicate that direction in a way that sparks excitement and passion in others, you create an environment where people want to contribute, where they want to be a part of something greater than themselves. Great leaders are visionaries, and they understand the power of storytelling to bring their vision to life. Rather than simply stating the goals or objectives, They weave a narrative that makes the journey feel possible, exciting, and worthwhile. They create a sense of purpose and urgency, compelling others to take action. But leadership persuasion isn't only about the big picture, it's also about the small moments. Every interaction you have with your team or audience is an opportunity to persuade. Whether you're giving feedback, providing support, or simply having a conversation, the way you communicate shapes how people see you and how they respond to you. Every word, every gesture, every expression conveys something about your leadership style. Persuasion is built not only on grand speeches or declarations, but also on the everyday exchanges that reinforce your values and intentions. As a leader, you must be mindful of your actions at all times, ensuring that your words and behavior are consistently in alignment with the values you wish to promote. One of the most powerful tools in a leader's persuasive arsenal is emotional intelligence. The ability to understand, manage, and use emotions effectively is essential for building relationships, resolving conflicts, and motivating others. When you have high emotional intelligence, you can gauge the emotions of others and adjust your approach accordingly. You can recognize when someone is struggling, when they need encouragement, or when they're feeling inspired. Emotional intelligence allows you to connect with others on a deeper level, to understand their fears, frustrations, and motivations, and to communicate with them in a way that resonates. When people feel understood and supported, they're more likely to trust you and follow your lead. They're more likely to be persuaded by your ideas because they feel you genuinely care about their well-being. Of course, leadership and persuasion aren't just about making people feel good. They're also about making tough decisions and holding people accountable. While it's important to be empathetic and understanding, a persuasive leader also knows when to be firm and decisive. There will be times when you need to make difficult choices that not everyone will agree with. This is where the art of persuasion is truly tested. The best leaders don't shy away from difficult conversations. They address them head-on with honesty and transparency. They explain their decisions clearly, making sure to provide context and reasoning for their choices. Even when people disagree, they respect the leader for their clarity and conviction. Persuasive leadership is not about avoiding conflict. It's about navigating it with integrity and purpose. Public speaking, as a form of persuasion, shares many similarities with leadership. When you step onto a stage or stand in front of an audience, you are being asked to inspire, motivate, and move people with your words. The key to persuasive public speaking is much like the key to persuasive leadership. It's about connecting with your audience. The best speakers don't just talk at their audience, they engage with them. They make the audience feel like they're part of the conversation, like their thoughts and feelings matter. Whether you're speaking to a room of 5 or 5,000, the goal is always the same: to make a meaningful connection. This means reading the room, responding to the energy of the audience, and adjusting your message to keep them engaged and inspired. Great speakers have the ability to create a sense of community with their listeners, making them feel like they're all in this together, working toward a shared goal. A key part of persuasive public speaking is authenticity. Audiences can tell when a speaker is being genuine or when they're simply reading from a script. Authenticity builds trust, and trust is the foundation of persuasion. When you speak from the heart, when you share your true thoughts and emotions, your audience feels that. They connect with you on a deeper level, and as a result, they're far more likely to be influenced by your message. Authenticity allows you to be vulnerable, to show your humanity, and to create a space where others feel safe to do the same. Ultimately, persuasive leadership and public speaking are about more than just convincing people to do something. They're about inspiring them to believe in something. It's about creating a vision that others can rally behind and motivating them to take action toward that vision. When you lead with conviction, communicate with clarity, and connect with others on a human level, persuasion becomes a natural extension of who you are as a leader. You don't have to force it. It flows effortlessly because it's rooted in your authenticity, your passion, and your belief in the greater good. In this way, persuasion in leadership and public speaking becomes not just a skill, but a way of life. It's about lifting others up, helping them see their potential, and guiding them toward a shared future that's brighter and more promising than any of us could imagine alone. Chapter 19. Ethical Persuasion. The Responsibility of Influence. It is a powerful, almost magnetic energy that comes with persuasion. It is a tool, a skill that can open doors, break down barriers, and lead others toward a better path. But with power comes responsibility. The ethical use of persuasion is not just about getting someone to say yes or agreeing to follow you. It's about ensuring that the influence you exert is used for good, for the betterment of everyone involved. When you understand this responsibility, you can use your skills as a force for positive change, both in your own life and in the lives of those around you. When we talk about ethical persuasion, we are discussing the principle that influence should not be used to manipulate, deceive, or coerce others into decisions that are not in their best interest. Manipulation thrives on deceit and exploitation, relying on controlling people's emotions and actions for personal gain, often without regard for the consequences. This is where the fine line between influence and manipulation is drawn. Ethical persuasion, on the other hand, respects others' autonomy. It recognizes that while you may present an idea or make a suggestion, the decision to act lies with the individual. You do not try to trick people or take advantage of their vulnerabilities. Instead, you give them the information, guidance, and encouragement they need to make informed decisions for themselves. One of the cornerstones of ethical persuasion is transparency. When you're transparent, you allow others to see exactly what is at stake without hiding any crucial information or distorting the facts. This doesn't mean you should bombard people with endless details, but it does mean being clear about your intentions. If you're selling a product or an idea, let the other person know what's in it for them and also what risks they might face. If you're asking someone to join you in a new venture or support a cause, make sure they know the full scope of the commitment, both the ups and the downs. Ethical persuasion always involves honesty about what you're offering and what is being asked of the other person. In addition to transparency, another key aspect of ethical persuasion is empathy. This means genuinely considering the perspective of the other person. It's about understanding their needs, desires, and concerns before making a persuasive appeal. Empathy allows you to connect with others on a human level, and when people feel that you truly understand them, they are much more likely to trust you. This trust is the foundation of ethical persuasion. If you're pushing an agenda without considering how it affects others, your influence may not be well received, and even if it is, it won't be sustainable in the long term. Persuasion, when used ethically, respects the values and beliefs of others. It's not about trying to change someone's fundamental nature or manipulate their beliefs to suit your needs. Instead, it's about finding common ground and building upon that foundation to guide them toward choices that align with their values. For instance, when working with a team, you don't simply push your ideas onto them because you hold a position of power. Instead, you seek to understand where they're coming from, what their motivations are, and how your shared goals can create a win-win situation for everyone. Persuasion becomes powerful not when you change someone's mind, but when you help them discover the best path forward based on their own values and priorities. Ethical persuasion also involves having integrity in every interaction. Integrity means acting in ways that are consistent with your principles, even when no one is watching. It's easy to be persuasive when you're trying to sell something or get someone to agree with you, but the real test of your ethics is whether or not your actions align with your values when you're not in the spotlight. Do you practice what you preach? Do you treat others with fairness and respect, even when it's inconvenient or when the stakes are high? Integrity is what makes persuasion truly ethical. It's about ensuring that the influence you have over others is not used for personal gain but for the greater good. One of the most powerful tools of ethical persuasion is the idea of positive reinforcement. This is the practice of recognizing and rewarding the behaviors you want to encourage. It's not about manipulating someone into doing something. Rather, it's about acknowledging their efforts, showing appreciation, and inspiring them to keep moving in the right direction. Positive reinforcement encourages growth, confidence, and a deeper sense of responsibility. It works in a way that is not only ethical but also sustainable. When people feel that their actions are being recognized and valued, they are more likely to continue those behaviors, which creates an environment of trust and cooperation. That being said, ethical persuasion also involves accepting the responsibility of being an example. Your actions speak louder than your words, and how you conduct yourself in the world has a profound impact on those around you. If you want to persuade others to act with integrity, you must first model integrity yourself. If you want others to lead with empathy, you must demonstrate empathy in your own interactions. If you want to create a culture of transparency, you must be transparent in all your dealings. When you hold yourself to a high standard, others will naturally look to you as a role model and be more inclined to follow your example. As persuasive leaders and communicators, it's important to also consider the potential consequences of our influence. We may persuade others to make decisions, but we must ask ourselves, are these decisions aligned with their best interests? Will they lead to positive outcomes, or will they cause harm? Ethical persuasion requires us to think about the long-term effects of our actions, not just the short-term wins. When you persuade someone to act in a way that harms them, whether knowingly or unknowingly, you are crossing a line. It's essential to maintain an awareness of the ripple effects your influence has on others. If your influence leads to an outcome that ultimately does not serve the well-being of those you are persuading, then the persuasive act is no longer ethical, regardless of the immediate results. In business, this is particularly important. Persuasion is often employed in negotiations, sales, and marketing, and while these are essential components of success, they must be carried out with honesty and fairness. Consumers place a lot of trust in businesses, and companies that take advantage of this trust for short-term gains will ultimately pay the price in the long run. Ethical persuasion in business means offering real value, providing truthful information, and ensuring that the products or services you offer genuinely improve people's lives. It means standing behind your promises and being willing to answer tough questions with integrity, even when it's inconvenient. When you operate from a place of ethical persuasion, your influence extends far beyond the immediate outcome. People remember how you made them feel and how you treated them, and this is what will continue to build your reputation, your relationships, and your leadership. People may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. When you persuade from a place of ethical integrity, you build trust that lasts. And trust, more than anything else, is the most powerful form of influence you can have. The responsibility of persuasion is immense, but so is the opportunity. When used ethically, persuasion can lead to incredible positive change, both in our own lives and in the lives of others. It can help create stronger relationships, more productive teams, and more successful communities. Ethical persuasion isn't just about getting people to say yes, it's about guiding them toward the right decisions, empowering them to take action that serves their best interests, and showing them the way forward with honesty, transparency, and respect. When you use persuasion in this way, you are not just influencing others, you are also shaping a world that is built on trust, integrity, and mutual respect. Chapter 20. Becoming a Master Persuader for Life. Becoming a Master Persuader for Life isn't about learning a set of techniques or tricks that you can apply when the moment calls for it. It's about cultivating a mindset that allows persuasion to flow naturally from who you are and how you interact with the world. This isn't a quick fix or a skill that can be turned on and off at will. It's something that takes time, reflection, and a deep commitment to understanding both yourself and others on a profound level. It's about truly embodying the principles of persuasion, so that when you speak, your words are infused with authenticity, conviction, and a deep sense of empathy. To become a master persuader, you first have to develop a deep understanding of your own values, beliefs, and desires. You need to be in tune with what drives you, what motivates you, and what you truly stand for. When you're clear on who you are and what you want, your words will be grounded in that authenticity. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing exactly what you believe and why, and this confidence is magnetic. People are naturally drawn to individuals who are unwavering in their convictions, not because they're forceful, but because they exude an inner strength that comes from being aligned with their own truth. This clarity doesn't just apply to your own beliefs, however. It's also essential when it comes to understanding the people you are persuading. The more you understand the needs, desires, and motivations of others, the more effectively you can communicate with them in a way that resonates. Persuasion is not about manipulating others into doing what you want. It's about finding common ground, framing your message in a way that speaks to their values, and guiding them toward a decision that benefits both of you. The best persuaders are those who are able to listen deeply and empathize with others, putting themselves in the other person's shoes and approaching conversations with an open mind. One of the most powerful aspects of persuasion is the ability to inspire others to see the world through a different lens. When you have a deep understanding of a particular idea, concept, or vision, your passion for it becomes contagious. You don't need to argue or force someone to adopt your point of view. Instead, you paint a picture that's so compelling and vivid that the other person can't help but be drawn in. You inspire them to take action because they now see the possibility of something greater. When persuasion comes from a place of inspiration rather than manipulation, it has a far more lasting and positive impact. Being a master persuader also requires a level of emotional intelligence. It's about recognizing the emotional triggers that motivate people, understanding when to press forward and when to take a step back, and knowing how to adjust your approach based on the person you're engaging with. Emotions are incredibly powerful drivers of behavior, and the more attuned you are to the emotions of others, the more effectively you can guide them toward the outcome you're seeking. However, this doesn't mean using emotions to manipulate or exploit. It means understanding the emotional landscape of a conversation so that you can communicate in a way that acknowledges the other person's feelings, fears, and desires. At the heart of being a master persuader is the ability to build trust. Trust is the foundation upon which every persuasive interaction is built. Without trust, your words will fall on deaf ears, no matter how convincing or charismatic you may be. To build trust, you must be consistent, reliable, and transparent. You must follow through on your promises and act with integrity in every interaction. Trust takes time to build, but it can be destroyed in an instant. Therefore, mastering persuasion means making a conscious effort to nurture trust in every relationship, whether it's personal or professional. It's about being someone others can count on, someone who always operates from a place of honesty and authenticity. While mastering persuasion requires understanding others, it also involves a deep sense of self-awareness. You must be mindful of your own biases, assumptions, and blind spots. Often, we are unaware of how our own beliefs shape the way we communicate and how others perceive us. To be an effective persuader, you need to be willing to challenge your own assumptions and be open to feedback. This self-awareness allows you to adjust your approach when necessary, to be more mindful of how you come across, and to ensure that you're always presenting your ideas in a way that is respectful, thoughtful, and considerate of the other person's perspective. A key component of persuasion mastery is the ability to make others feel empowered. Persuasion shouldn't be about taking control of a situation or forcing someone to submit to your will. Instead, it's about giving others the confidence to make their own decisions, knowing that they are supported by you. When you help others see the benefits of a particular choice or direction and guide them toward making it on their own, you not only gain their respect, but you also build a sense of mutual trust and cooperation. You become a guide, not a dictator, and this makes the persuasion process far more powerful and enduring. It's also important to recognize that persuasion isn't always about getting immediate results. Sometimes, the most effective persuasion is subtle, unfolding over time. It's about planting a seed, offering an idea, and then allowing it to grow. You might not persuade someone to take action in the moment, but you've sparked something in their mind that will continue to evolve. Being patient and understanding that persuasion is a process, sometimes a long one, is essential to mastering this skill. Furthermore, persuasion is not something that only works on others, it's something that you must also apply to yourself. The greatest persuaders are those who are able to persuade themselves to take action, to stay disciplined, and to push past the obstacles that life inevitably throws in their way. The most important person you will ever need to persuade is yourself. If you can convince yourself to stay committed, to take risks, and to keep going even when it's tough, you will not only succeed in your own life, but you will also become a beacon of influence for others. The journey to becoming a master persuader is not an easy one, but it's an incredibly rewarding one. It requires you to be patient with yourself, to be humble in your approach, and to continuously strive to learn and grow. Persuasion is not a skill that you can learn overnight, but as you refine your understanding of human behavior, communication, and connection, you will find that persuasion becomes less of a technique and more of an intuitive, natural part of who you are. Ultimately, persuasion mastery is about fostering relationships, creating meaningful connections, and inspiring positive change. It's about being a force for good in the world, not through manipulation, but through empathy, trust, and shared purpose. When you approach persuasion from this place, you will find that it becomes a tool for building a better life, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. And in that way, you'll become not just a master persuader, but a master of human connection, growth and positive influence.